Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Starry Skies and Sweet Smiles, or alternatively, Edgelords are tamed by the power of love and oblivious dorks in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 41. The war ended with the kiss of peace being exchanged between. What was that noise? Professor Manuela suddenly interrupted her history lesson to ask. That was the boar ripping his textbook in half, Felix stated irritably. Dmitri looked just as confused as everyone else, looking at the two halves of his textbook in his hands like a dog sitting near a broken vase. Professor Manuela stared in shock, before moving her hand to cover her open mouth. How? How did you do that? And why? She asked the prince, too baffled to be angry. I apologize, Dmitri said, his face bright red. I don't know what came over me. I will accept any punishment you will give me. Professor Manuela's eyebrows furrowed together as she moved her hand to massage her temples. No, I want to know why this happened before you get punished. Blind punishment will not help unless we address the cause. Didn't the ripping start when Professor Manuela mentioned the kiss of peace? Annette asked innocently. TTH that. Dmitri, did you get kissed? Mercedes asked outright, and Dmitri jolted in his seat. His knees hit the bottom of the table he was seated at and. Your Highness, I think you might have broken the table as well, Dida said simply. No way. Sylvain exclaimed. How? You did it. Ingrid cheered. Professor, can I bake a cake to celebrate? Ash demanded excitedly. Yes, you may, as long as I get some. Why would you do that? Dmitri demanded. Your Highness, we have been waiting too long. Ingrid told him. We were waiting for you to get together. There was a pause. Your Highness. You are together now, right? Dmitri was silent. Your Highness. And that's why we need a new table in the Blue Lion's classroom, Manuela told Geralt, taking a swig from her glass. So, you've come to me, Geralt noted. The two of them were in a bar outside the monastery, their drunken complaining having become a sort of negotiation. Manuela grinned, whispering to Geralt quietly. Listen. Lady Ria? She's gonna be all mad if she hears that this one student keeps breaking things, Prince, or not. But it's not his fault. So, just help out and help me keep it quiet, alright? What's in it for me? Geralt asked, with all the expertise of a veteran mercenary. I'll pay your tab for the next month. Their deal was sealed with a firm handshake. The next day, Geralt took Byleth with him as he went to browse the nearest furniture store. Which sucked, because that was the day a bunch of demonic beasts attacked the chapel. All the three houses had to investigate together in face of the lack of power. When they returned, they passed by the chapel. The chapel was on fire, transformed Monica was back, there was a weird pale guy with a big veiny head and literal black eyes, and Dmitri had a broken arm. What the fuck, Geralt said flatly. Byleth shrugged. Chapter 42. The fire of the last demonic beast's final attack burned through the chapel ruins. A figure emerged from the flames with a smile. Tamash. Claude cried out in shock. I'm not Tamash. My name is Solon, savior of all. And like Monica, he transformed. Be careful. Edelgard ordered. We have no idea what he wants. I thought he had been absent for a research trip. Linhard said. Oh, don't you see? Solon gestured at the fallen students on the ground. This is a research trip. I always wanted to see what one could do with that girl's blood and crest stones in unison. Questions and cries of horror were thrown at him like stones. How could you? Annette screamed. What sort of cruelty? Marianne asked softly. You did this just to see what would happen. Ignatz demanded. But then Dmitri spoke up. You, monster, Dmitri declared. Scum such as you, selfish and callous as you are, deserve nothing more than a painful death. Felix sighed. Dmitri. Hilda said softly, stunned by the sheer hatred in his voice. Are you okay, dude? Claude asked. And then Solon laughed. Heh, so the whelp who survived Dusker is now back to strike me down. The Flame Emperor will be pleased if I bring back your head. Edelgard was confused. She never asked him to? Flame Emperor? Dmitri asked. Caspar furrowed his eyebrows together. Did we hear a name like that before? The Flame Emperor is the one who will conquer this world, the Herald of Tomorrow, the Sunbringer, and the one for whom we orchestrated the tragedy of Dusker. Oh no, Edelgard said quietly. You. Dmitri roared. I swear. I will find every single one of your cohorts, and I will slice you open and hang you by your entrails. And then Dmitri charged towards Solon, throwing his lance forward. The spear barely missed Solon's head, embedding itself in the stone wall behind him with the sound of stone cracking. Claude cursed as he rushed to back Dmitri up, bringing the rest of the students with him. Another figure teleported in, slicing at Dmitri with a familiar knife. What kind of fool throws away his weapon on a battlefield? Kronia demanded, cackling. You're gonna get yourself gutted, and it's no one's fault but yours. So, you were another one of them all along. Dmitri realized as he dodged. No matter. Every single one of you will die. And then. Dmitri. Hilda cried out. Stop it. Yuri. It happened in a split second. Dmitri looked back at her. Her eyes were wide with fear. That split second of distraction let Kronia strike Dmitri's arm with a bone-cracking kick. Before Hilda could finish her words, a scream ripped out of her throat. A series of arrows kept Kronia from stabbing at Dmitri. Stop it. You won't kill anyone else. Bernadetta exclaimed. You won't touch His Highness. Ash declared. There's no way we'll lose, Leonie promised. You should start running. Ignatz yelled. Claude simply looked to Edelgard, who nodded. It was a silent confirmation that she didn't order this. Edelgard and Claude ordered the rest of their classmates to move, seamlessly working together. Dmitri felt disjointed, even as Claude ordered Mercedes to heal him, for Ferdinand to hand him another lance. He could hardly process the feeling of healing magic bringing the pieces of his arm back together, or notice when Geralt and Byleth entered the fray. Dmitri only vaguely noted Geralt striking Kronia down, Solon running away with his tail between his legs. Byleth tried to get them all to return to the monastery, but Dmitri's feet were dragging behind him. The only things Dmitri could register were feelings of disgust, hatred, and shame. Hatred for what the two monsters had done, shame that he couldn't be the one striking them down. And disgust at himself, for descending to such an extent. The image of Hilda's frightened expression flashed in front of his eyes. I'm nothing but a bloodthirsty beast, was what he thought at the time. Chapter 43. According to Didu, Dmitri had been hiding in the chapel, but Hilda suspected that Didu was trying to cover for Dmitri from how still his expression was. She still thanked him, looked for Dmitri there, and found nothing. Hilda looked everywhere she could think, even heading to town, but she didn't find him, even as her search stretched into the evening. Hilda had actually given up and tried to go to bed, telling herself that she would talk to Dmitri the next day, when she realized something. Dmitri had probably been avoiding her all day. Moving around, just as she was. But, now that she had gone to bed, he would remain in one place, wouldn't he? Wrapping herself in a blanket, Hilda set out. In the daytime, the balcony beside the dining hall was just that, a simple balcony. But at night, it was where they witnessed the stars reflecting in the lake together. A special place. Just as she thought, Hilda found him there, still wearing his uniform even in the night air. Didu. Please leave me be, Dmitri said at the sound of approaching footsteps. His gaze was on the stars above, so far away that, if not for his hand grabbing the railing, she would have thought he might have floated off already. Sorry to disappoint, but I'm not Didu, Hilda replied. Dmitri's eyes widened as Hilda made her way up, leaning on the railing next to him. Some view, huh? Hilda asked with the same bright grin as always. What are you doing? Dmitri asked. Why are you here? To spend time with you, of course, Hilda answered. Dmitri's expression became pained. Why would you do such a thing? Dmitri asked her, his voice seeming lost. Confused. After seeing me in such a state, weren't you frightened? Disgusted, his mind supplied. Haven't you realized that you were better off without someone like me? Yeah, it was scary, Hilda admitted. I never saw you so reckless and angry before, but, looking back on it, I really should have expected you to be angry. That jerk was taunting you with the tragedy. She let out a sigh, adding, you charged right at him. I thought you were going to get yourself killed. That was terrifying. The persistent image of her horrified eyes became replaced by Hilda's concerned expression in Dimitri's eyes. I don't want to let you suffer alone, she said. Because, you're really not alone, you know? You've got so many friends who are worried for you, and they want you to be okay, me included. Hilda gave him a gentle smile, before moving closer to the stunned Dimitri. He could barely process that she was with him, not looking at him with hatred but with kindness, so when she hugged him, he just froze. I'm here for you if you need it, okay, Dimitri. Hilda told him. I'll listen to you. Dimitri hesitated. I'm sorry, Hilda, he said. It's not something to apologize for. Hilda exclaimed. I want to be there for you. It's not a burden or anything. And maybe earlier, Dimitri would have insisted, pushed her away, or protested. Say he didn't deserve it, say he couldn't accept it, anything. But instead, he just stood there. For a long while. Hilda was about to let go, when Dimitri lifted a hand and placed it on her shoulder. Dimitri. Dimitri was silent for a moment, before. He leaned down, wrapping both his arms around her. As he breathed, he seemed to slowly relax. His body was warm around her, warmer than the blanket and much more effective at keeping away the cold. After a moment, Hilda said, Come on. Let's go back inside, Dimitri, with a smile. Dimitri went along with her suggestion with little resistance. Hilda hugged his arm and added his cloak on top of her blanket. The walk to the stairs to their floor and the following hallway trek was spent in silence, but when they reached Hilda's door, the pig-tailed girl just shook her head. Can I see your room this time? She asked. And in the late hour, in their tired state, after that battle, things like impropriety and scandal hardly mattered to Dimitri anymore, though he knew they should. All right, he said after a pause. They kept going, and Dimitri opened the door for her. He wasn't quite sure where to stay, feeling foreign in his own room, so he simply let Hilda bring him inside. Out of routine, he took off his armor and left them in their usual places. It's different in here at night, huh? Hilda noted. The only lighting in the room was the light streaming in through the windows. It left half the room heavily shadowed and somber looking. Dimitri simply let out a vague acknowledgement of her words, so Hilda kept talking. Hey, that was what you meant, wasn't it? The people you had to get revenge on, Hilda said. Yes. No matter the cost, I will get revenge for those who died at their hands, Dimitri stated. No. Hilda said instantly, before remembering to quiet down. Her expression was pained as she whispered, I mean, why do you want to put revenge above your own life? Dimitri couldn't answer as Hilda turned her wet eyes towards him. You're here right now, with friends who care about you, with people who would be heartbroken if you died. Hilda said. And I don't want you to throw your life away. Dimitri was silent for a while, before sighing. I don't understand how you could have so much concern for a monster like me. Huh? Hilda said, honestly confused. Monster? You. Dimitri nodded, saying, I was certain you'd be disgusted by my bloodlust and come to hate me. The fact that you haven't is proof of your astonishing kindness. Hold on, can we go back a second? What are you talking about? Hilda asked. I'm nothing but a murdering monster who lives for revenge, Dimitri said outright, hoping that this way, Hilda could realize that maybe, he wasn't worth saving. No. Hilda replied easily. If you were a monster, why would you hate evil people? Or try so hard to fulfill your dad's last wish? Or hate killing people? Or feel so guilty? Or be really nice to people and have lots of friends? I don't think monsters are so dutiful or respectful, either. You're really responsible and nice and selfless? What part of you is monstrous? In an almost innocent manner, Hilda managed to completely shut down Dimitri's doubts, at least for a while. You really are an unbelievably kind person, Dimitri said, almost to himself. Hilda was confused, but her attempt to question him was cut off by her yawning. Sorry, it's not like I'm falling asleep because I don't care, Hilda said, I just, you know. I apologize for keeping you up, Dimitri told her. And before he could offer to walk her to her room, she said, Hey, that's fine. In exchange, can you make sure I'm warm tonight? What? Dimitri asked. I just want to hug you as I fall asleep. This blanket is way too thin, and you're warm, Hilda reasoned simply. Plus, I left my favorite teddy bear at home, so. In truth, she was actually just worried for him, but he didn't need to know about that. Dimitri was silent for a short moment, but before Hilda could say that it was a joke, he opened his arms awkwardly. If that's what you'd like, he said. In the darkness, his blush was imperceptible. Hilda paused for a moment, before grinning. Thank you, Dimitri, she said as she hugged him. Your Highness? Dude, wake up. How are you not in class already? Sylvain called out as he knocked on Dimitri's door. Under his breath, he added, Geez, it's supposed to be the other way around. The door opened quickly, and Dimitri emerged in his wrinkled uniform. Did you fall asleep in your uniform or something? Sylvain asked. Yes, just give me a moment to change and I'll be right out. Dimitri said hurriedly. All right, cool. MMMNRGHH, too early. The two boys froze as Hilda poked her head out from the blankets on Dimitri's bed. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit. TTH, this isn't what it looks like. Really, Sylvain. Dimitri. Dimitri. Will you shut up? Felix screamed from his room. Claude poked his head out from his door, flatly wondering what the hell was making these idiots be so loud. Did they forget that it was the weekend or something? Chapter 44. There were 2 whole months before Edelgard planned to attack the Holy Tomb. Claude had to do everything in his power to persuade her otherwise before that took place. Otherwise, he had to fall back on his backup plan, and he didn't want to fall back on his backup plan, because that plan involved kidnapping. He chased down several ideas in his head. Should he something that could prove her truth wrong? Maybe propose a different way to unite Fodlan? Or, his last option. Claude thought it over. Then, he realized that the 3 were not mutually exclusive. He made up a quick plan, then, set it in motion. Hilda, can you do me a favor? Claude asked straight up. Hilda seemed a bit stunned by how upfront he was, so Claude continued, moving his hands about in a nervous manner as they walked towards the dorms. See, well. I'm a guy, Claude said awkwardly. Yeah, I can tell, Hilda replied immediately. No, I mean, shit, I started this off wrong. What I mean to say is, as a girl, you could get info I can't, right? Like, what a certain girl would like in terms of gifts. You want me to question Edelgard for you, Hilda translated. Yes, exactly. Claude said. I'll go do something inconspicuous and innocent while you chat her up in her room and find out what sort of thing I could get her. Hilda let out a laugh. Geez, do you really have to come up with a scheme for everything? You're dating, aren't you? Claude laughed too, half because he didn't know either and half to avoid the question entirely. Go, I'll be waiting. Claude cheered. All right, but I expect heaps of praise. Woo, Hilda. You're the best. A cut above all the rest. Claude chanted as Hilda went up the stairs. Now, Edelgard had been preparing something very important for her plans, because it had been literal months since she had pulled her Flame Emperor costume out from its hiding place and she had to check if she could still remove it easily. And Claude knew this, because she had told him she would be busy and that he couldn't come in and invite her to tea. So naturally, he had distracted Hubert from making sure no one opened that door without telling Edelgard and then sent Hilda up there to mess up her plans. Couldn't do shit to no one if your plans were a mess, right? Hilda knocked on Edelgard's door, stunning the princess. The white-haired girl accidentally dropped the suit of armor onto the floor at the sudden sound. Edelgard. Are you okay? Yes. I am. Edelgard exclaimed, hurriedly shoving armor back under her bed. What was that crashing noise? Edelgard paled as she realized that, due to her hasty movements making them all pile up, she couldn't fit all of the pieces under the floorboard. I accidentally knocked over a bookshelf. Edelgard yelled, gathering up the rest of the armor pieces to find somewhere else to put them. She shoved a pauldron under her pillow, before looking around in a panic for a place to put her helmet. Are you sure? It sounded more metal. Why? Do you need help? I'm fine. The bookshelf had a few trinkets on it. Metal, cat sculpture. Did it fall on you? Should I get you to the infirmary? No, I just dodged it. Yeah. I dodged it. Edelgard, if you're lying just so I won't worry, it won't work. I'll seriously break down the door and carry you to the infirmary. No. Don't. Edelgard exclaimed, sweating as she tried to find literally anywhere to hide her helmet. How come? Are you hurt? And no. I painted a portrait of Claude. And I would actually rather burn down the monastery than let anyone know. Edelgard lied. I'm trying to find a place to hide it. Ahahaha. Is that all? Don't worry, my lips are sealed. Take as long as you need. Edelgard let out a sigh of relief, before opening her window and throwing the helmet out as hard as she could. Outside, Raphael suddenly dodged the flying projectile, startling Bernadetta and Petra and impressing a Hubert watching from the shadows. Now, it should be noted that Hilda never met the Flame Emperor before. She wouldn't be able to recognize the armor even if she walked in at any point of this exchange. I apologize for the delay, Edelgard said, opening her door. Was there something you needed? Well, I want to have a girl hangout session with you. Hilda exclaimed. I'm sorry, what? Oh, don't give me that, I wanted to hang out with my friend, and also check if you got yourself hurt, Hilda said, and there was an edge to her voice that said that Edelgard could not refuse. So, you mind if I come in? Edelgard quietly let her inside. Hilda instinctively went for her bed, but that was bad and terrible for all the pillowy reasons, so Edelgard had to hurriedly pull out her desk chair for Hilda to sit down. Hilda accepted the chair, letting Edelgard take the bed. Hilda's examination mostly consisted of patting Edelgard's head for any bumps and asking if she got hit anywhere else. Edelgard was very honest when she said that nothing hurt. That's great. Hilda said, before wondering how exactly she was supposed to go from injuries to surprise gift ideas without tipping you off. In the end, she settled on, your room's real tidy. Because she needed to stall for time. Edelgard's expression stiffened, and Hilda realized. Oh, well, you must have cleaned up in a hurry, from the bookshelf. It was then that Hilda realized that Edelgard had, at most, an alcove on which to put books, and not a thing that could actually fall over. She didn't even have a cat sculpture. Now, Hilda was willing to dismiss this as, oh, Edelgard was really desperate to hide that painting, but then Edelgard was rushing to keep Hilda from connecting the dots. I knocked over all my books because I was panicking, Edelgard lied. Over what? Hilda asked. CL. Clothes. Edelgard offered uncertainly. And then Hilda instantly knew what to do. Oh? Why? Did you want a new outfit or something? Hilda asked, trailing off with a slight grin. She thought it could be something Claude could do. Yes. That is exactly it. Edelgard said. I wanted to change my appearance, because, sometimes, I would like to be cute. Like, you. It was then that Hilda's grin widened with honored giddiness. Edelgard. Don't worry. You're as cute can be already. No need to copy me at all. Hilda exclaimed. You don't need anything else. I mean, if you need proof, just hang on. Hilda wait. And Edelgard could not stop her, because fucking hell, Hilda was a goddamn force of nature when she wanted to be. Sylvain, please. Are you kidding me? She kissed you. And then slept in your bed. And you're still not dating. How? Sylvain screamed, disturbing the air in the courtyard. Sylvain. I don't care if you two didn't have sex. Who kisses a guy and then sleeps in his bed without having feelings for him? Sylvain. She is basically throwing herself at you and you are dodging. Sylvain exclaimed, demonstrating this concept by moving his hands past each other dramatically. How are you managing this? Sylvain. Listen, buddy, dude, pal, you can confess with a dagger. It's okay. I'm giving you permission to use the dagger, Sylvain said. But please, for the love of the goddess, just actually confess. And then Claude walked up to them. Yo, your highness. Claude called out. Teach is calling you, better hurry and come with. All right. I'm coming. Dimitri replied. He turned back towards Sylvain, who was giving him the most impatient, exasperated expression possible. I'm leaving now, Dimitri said. Sylvain's only answer was, Your Highness. If you manage to ask her out, I will apply myself in class, stop flirting around too wildly, and actually take some things seriously. With a heavy statement like that suddenly thrown at him, Dimitri left with Claude. So, Professor Byleth. Oh, no, they didn't call you, Claude said. I was lying. Why? You seemed uncomfortable, so I decided to give you an out, Claude said casually. Claude, thank you so much, Dimitri said in the utmost seriousness. Hey, it's no big deal. Claude replied. Just help me out if I need it and we'll be even, all right? Of course. Ah. Perfect. There they are. Hilda. Hilda, wait. The two boys paused at the approaching voices, before their eyes widened. Hilda was dragging Edelgard towards them by the hand. The pigtailed girl had an anxious expression on her face. Because Edelgard was the one wearing pigtails. Hilda had worn her hair down with Edelgard's ribbons. And, on top of that, they had even switched uniforms. Hilda stopped right before the two boys, Edelgard stopping just a bit behind her. Something special going on? Claude asked. Some sort of special switcheroo day or something? What? No, I just gave Edelgard a makeover. What do you think, you guys? Please spare me the ridicule. Edelgard said softly. I don't think you look bad at all, Dimitri replied, but you do look uncomfortable. Yeah, I'd have to agree, Claude said. I mean, the princess is cute enough in her own clothes, so what prompted this? Hilda did not reply to either of them, instead taking Edelgard's hands in her own and saying, See. You don't have to change yourself at all to be considered cute. You're already the cutest of the cutest of the cutest, so hold your head up with pride. Don't worry about comparing yourself to anyone else. Edelgard's face almost went as red as her cloak, even though it was wrapped around Hilda's shoulder. The cloak whooshed in the wind as Hilda rounded on Claude. And you? You don't have to go through complicated schemes to tell Edelgard you like her. All you need to do is be more open and show more affection. That's all she wants. Wait, I mean it. Compliments, saying you're cute, noticing things, maybe even an I like you, that's all a girl needs to be happy. Just be more honest, Claude. Claude wasn't sure if he pressed his hand to his face to cover up a laugh or a blush as Hilda rounded on Dimitri. I don't actually know if there's something I'm supposed to be yelling at you for, Hilda admitted, her voice happy and relaxed all of a sudden, but whatever you're doing, do your best. Remember to rely on your friends. I'll be cheering for you. Dimitri flushed as she leaned forward and waved her arms with a smile. Hilda laughed, before taking off the cloak, wrapping it around Edelgard, and lightly pushing the princess towards Claude. Edelgard was too baffled to resist much, even as Hilda practically shoved the other girl's head into Claude's chest. Hilda then turned, gave Claude a thumbs up, blew a kiss goodbye at Dimitri, and left. The three house leaders were in varying states of internal chaos because of that. Claude could only think one thing as he looked down at Edelgard's flustered expression. Fucking hell, Hilda's more effective than I thought. In his head, his plan went from, use Hilda as a distraction sometimes while I investigate things to, throw Hilda at the two edgelords as much as possible and let her work her magic. Chapter 45. Dimitri was brooding. It was very easy to see, at least if you were Claude. Since, well, most people, when watching Ash, Mercedes, Hilda, Didu, Lysithea, and Edelgard baking treats together, would find themselves melting at the cuteness. Didu had gotten everyone handmade aprons, so Hilda thanked him and called him the best. Mercedes was showing Ash an easier way to mix with a whisk. Lysithea struggled to carry the large bag of flour, so Edelgard helped her lift it. Annette was chattering excitedly to Cyril about cleaning up afterwards, the boy not realizing that Annette fully intended on joining him with cleaning the entire monastery. Raphael had managed to drag Bernadetta into a conversation with him, Marianne, and Ignatz. She was doing well. Ingrid was scolding Sylvain for hitting on Petra, who didn't understand. Felix snacked on bits of meat Ash prepared for him since he didn't like sweets. Lawrence and Ferdinand were talking about which sweets went best with tea. Dorothea had accidentally promised to make heart-shaped cookies for Leonie and was trying to recover by offering some to Caspar and Linhard. Caspar said no. Hubert was engraving every moment of Edelgard's happiness into his skull. Flane was talking to Marianne, because Flane wanted sweets too, and Marianne, shy as she was, wanted this little girl to have fun and be happy. The atmosphere was fun and happy and adorable. Not even Professor Byleth, supervising to ensure the kitchen didn't catch fire, could resist cracking a smile. And then there was Dimitri, sitting in the corner, brooding. He didn't even seem to register that Hilda was in a cute heart-patterned apron with her hair in buns to prevent getting into any batter or mix. Naturally, Claude had to go over and check what could have possibly caused him to be so distressed. Hopefully, it wasn't something like, "I'm angry at the knife people," or something. Claude wasn't sure if continuing to throw Hilda at that was a good idea. She was effective, but she had to think of her own well-being sometimes too, and if she wouldn't, Claude would for her. So Claude asked. Dimitri waffled about, trying to assure Claude not to worry, that he was fine, stuff like that, but Claude wouldn't let him get away with it. So Dimitri eventually relented. And then the answer turned out to be, "How do you hit on a girl?" Claude almost fell out of his chair in his ensuing laughter. "Oh, Dimitri. Oh, sweet, innocent prince," Claude said, "you don't even have to." Dimitri didn't understand what the fuck that meant, so Claude just went and gave Dimitri a book on pickup lines he found in the dormitory hallway. "Doesn't this belong to Sylvain?" Dimitri asked. "No idea. Claude, it has Sylvain's name written on the inside cover." "I can't read." Claude. "Listen, just give it to Professor Byleth after, they'll return it like they do with all the stuff everyone loses, it's fine if you borrow it." Claude, "I cannot rob a childhood friend of mine of something so valuable." "Go for it," Sylvain yelled, because he was sitting at the same table. "You need it." "Thanks, dude," Claude said, and he flashed a thumbs up at Sylvain. Sylvain did one in return with a grin. "Oh no," Ingrid said. "Oh no." Dimitri was very silent as he walked Hilda around the monastery. "Maybe art?" Edelgard could. Oh no, you said you snapped paintbrushes, and you can't sew, either, Hilda paused, because she was trying to help Dimitri figure out a hobby he could do to relax. "Maybe horseback riding? Or, long walks. Flower viewing." She brightened as she turned to Dimitri. "What do you think of flower viewing, Dimitri?" she asked with a grin. Now, if Dimitri had even a modicum of smoothness, he would have replied with, "All right, would you come with me," and turned her suggestion into a date. If he was more smooth, he would have gone with, "But is there a single flower out there that can compare to your beauty?" And if he were smoother still, he would have not been in this situation in the first place. Instead, Dimitri stared at Hilda, suddenly looked away with a blushing face, and said, "I'm going to go to the training hall." This was because Dimitri went to the training hall to not think, and he was absolutely in need of not thinking at the moment. "Hey, wait. The entire point of this is so you can relax without going to the training hall," Hilda exclaimed, following after Dmitri. What will you do if you hurt yourself overworking? Dmitri. And Dmitri was legitimately trying. He took notes on the flirting book and everything. He was just trying very much too hard and kind of overloaded his entire brain, because then he just sorta? I think the goddess needs to count her angels. Dmitri blurted out, completely embarrassed. There's one right in front of me. And Hilda, despite frequently being flirted with, totally failed to recognize that this was meant in an attempt at flirting. Dmitri was so far removed from the concept of flirting in her head that she didn't even think it was possible for him to flirt. Are you okay? Hilda asked flatly. I think that skirt is made of mirrors, because. Hilda's expression was enough to convince Dmitri to stop. I am so dreadfully sorry, he said. No, let's just get you to the training hall after all, Hilda said in return. They have a medical kit there. Yeah, her immediate reaction to Dmitri flirting was to think that he got hit in the head too hard. Dmitri was too flustered to register this implication, and so accepted this without complaint. She managed to drag him to a bench as she grabbed the kit and started patting his head for any bumps or bruises. Now, Dmitri was in a state of high-tension nervousness, and also not very familiar with human affection in general. So, the sudden head pat made him flinch out of embarrassment and shock. This made Hilda flinch and fall over too. Dmitri instantly moved to catch her, but instead he wound up falling with her. Thankfully, neither of them were hurt. Unthankfully, people tended to use the training hall. In particular, people who actually took their training seriously. So Felix walked in on what appeared to be Dmitri pinning a girl to the floor. You must be joking? The training hall? You're doing this here? Felix demanded in a rage. Have you finally decided to embrace your instincts, boor? And while Dmitri was once again having to clarify to one of his childhood friends that, no please listen this isn't what it looks like, as he practically jumped off of her, Hilda's reaction was more. Hey! Why do you keep calling Dmitri a boor? Hilda demanded, because that was clearly the more important thing here. That's what he is. A wild boar, running on instinct and living for the dead. That's when Hilda realized something. Felix actually had a point about Dmitri being stuck in the pain of the past. He was just rude as all hell about it. And mean. So Hilda sat up and crossed her arms at Felix, wearing a very stern expression. So what? If you have a problem with Dmitri, then why not say it outright instead of hiding behind insults and jabs, huh? Hilda demanded. You won't get anywhere by just stupidly lashing out at friends who need your help and insight. All you're doing is pushing people away like a coward. And, because Hilda could tell that, standing before her was a prideful boy who couldn't admit his own weaknesses, she added. You can swing around your sword as much as you want, but it's all going to be meaningless if you don't have anything or anyone to fight for. Hilda stood and went to leave with a flick of her hair. When she passed by Felix, she let out a dismissive humph. Hilda? Dmitri asked. See you later, Dmitri. And with that, she was gone. Felix let out a sigh. Why did you bring your pet rabbit here in the first place? He demanded. Are you, by any chance, referring to Hilda? Dmitri asked. Felix nodded irritably. I assure you, I had no intention of doing anything untoward. We simply fell over by accident while she was checking for any injuries. And Felix looked, and found the medical kit on the bench. He let out a contemplative hum as he picked it up, Dmitri looking confused and curious about Felix's strange actions. Felix. I suppose you've gotten better, if you've let go of the past enough to want a future date, Felix said simply, putting the medical kit back in its usual place. Dmitri watched on in curiosity as Felix went to grab his sword. Well? Felix asked impatiently. Pick up your weapon. I want to test my strength against yours. Dmitri was surprised, but he quickly recovered and went for a training spear. They had a few sparring matches in the following days. It was not quite the friendship they had in the past, but it was an improvement over their relationship as of late. Huh, so you were trying to flirt with me to make Sylvain act all serious and junk? Hilda asked, condensing Dimitri's lengthy explanation/apology into one sentence. Yes, Dimitri admitted shamefully, and Hilda laughed. Don't worry about it. I'd let you flirt with me anyways, so I don't mind. Dimitri felt his heart stop as his eyes widened, while Hilda just casually said, oh, by the way, I've heard Felix was acting a bit nicer recently. What do you think? He has been. Kinder, I mean, Dimitri said stiltedly. Great. Hilda exclaimed, and the conversation went by without either of them addressing what Hilda had said. Chapter 46. Hilda was watching the others in the dining hall with a pensive expression on her face. Why? Well. Dimitri said with a smile in the midst of a conversation. Merci. Cyril and Annette called out, asking Mercedes for help healing Lysathea after a nasty fall. Edie. Dorothea greeted as she walked by. Annie, sigh, Mercedes said as she patted the two on the head. Princess. Claude exclaimed dramatically, making Edelgard roll her eyes. Hilda's thoughts on the matter? That's so fucking cute, she thought. I want a nickname now. But, when she thought about it, Hilda wasn't very easy to turn into a nickname. Maybe if I give everyone a nickname instead? Hilda was thinking with the same fervor as Claude did when he schemed. She couldn't call Edelgard Princess, because that was Claude's thing. Claude made her title sound flirty and affectionate, so Hilda couldn't. Elle was a childhood nickname, so she didn't want to steal that. That was Dimitri's thing. Edel. Maybe she could ask Dorothea if they could brainstorm nicknames together. Dorothea seemed to have a nickname for everyone. Except people she didn't like much. The entire meal, Hilda was distracted by coming up with nicknames. Looking at the other members of her house, Hilda came up with Lysie, Leo, maybe Leah if that rolled off the tongue better, Nats, Iggy sounded weird, Ralph, Mari, and Lori, only if Lawrence was behaving. Claude could be Mr. Leader Guy. For the Black Eagles, she had Dora/Thea, she'd ask Dorothea which one she liked better later, Cass, Edie/Gardy, Lynn, Bernie/Detta, and Ferdy. She didn't want to call Petra Pet or anything, so until further notice, Petra was Super Sword Lady. Hubert kind of worried her, even though he was Edelgard's friend, because Hilda kept spotting him following Raphael in the shadows. Hubert didn't get a nickname. And the Blue Lions? Ashy, Annie, Merci, Eng, best she could come up with. Felix would not get nickname rights until he called Dimitri by name. Dida was Incredi Baker Dude until she got a better idea, Sylvie. And then there was Dimitri, and honestly, Hilda was fucking struggling with him. Maitri didn't sound like a thing, she didn't think Dimi sounded good, and she couldn't figure out anything else. But the dude had 4 different childhood friends. Someone had to have called him something affectionate and friendly when they were younger, right? When Hilda looked up, though, the Blue Lions minus Dimitri had vanished. So Hilda stood up and quietly left to search for them, because this was the most important quest of her entire life. Well, I gotta go, the library's calling, Claude said, getting up to leave. You three have on. Hilda's gone. Claude decided to forget the library for a day, because he did not want to leave those two without their daily dose of, please calm the fuck down, energy. Meanwhile, the Blue Lions were having a betting pool in their classroom on a table that was just several desks put together. 2 weeks, Annette said, throwing in 3 coins. I'll say 3, Ash added. His contribution to the betting table was a pair of candies. I have faith in His Highness and all, but, 2 months, Sylvain stated. He was betting 5 coins and an IOU for free math tutoring. A year, Ingrid offered, almost slamming a curry comb onto the table. Didu put his bet on exactly 5 months and gave a pack of seeds. He did this through notes, because he wasn't supposed to talk about Dimitri's feelings. Didu had learned the value of loopholes and slight disobedience after seeing Hilda's complete disregard for Dimitri's words lead to him sleeping more and not overworking himself. I don't see why I should care about the prince and his pet rabbit, Felix said, but it'll take 3 weeks. His bet was a piece of paper. Literally just a piece of paper. 2 years, Mercedes said flatly, putting a bag of buttons on the table. 2 years. We'll be dead by then. Sylvain exclaimed. Dead from waiting. I have to agree, Ingrid said sadly. There has to be some other way. There is no way I am waiting for 2 years for those two idiots to. Hi guys, sorry to interrupt but I got a question, Hilda said as she walked in casually. Ingrid immediately laid her arm flat on the table and swept everything onto the floor, because Hilda could never know. What can we help you with? Ash asked amicably, kicking everything under the table. I'm coming up with nicknames. Dimitri's giving me trouble. Does anyone have any ideas? Annette said, exchanging a look with Mercedes. Doesn't he like the fact that she calls him by name instead of his title, was what the two of them were thinking. Well, we had a nickname for him when we were younger, but he sorta outgrew it, Sylvain said. Too cutesy for him now. That's fine. It's okay because I'm cute. Hilda exclaimed, slamming her hands on part of the table excitedly. The desk her hands landed on shook beneath her strike, but she didn't notice. Please, tell me. My desk. Felix said, worried another table would be broken because of these people. And then Ingrid actually stopped to think about what would happen if Hilda learned that nickname. Turning around cutely, Hilda seemed to sparkle as she called out, Dima. Dimitri had a heart attack on the spot, killing him instantly. No, I cannot lose him this soon. Ingrid exclaimed suddenly, getting weird looks. Oh, did your attention slip? Lack of sleep? Ash asked, offering her an out. Why yes. I've been missing out on sleep to read, so I've been drifting off recently. Please forgive me. Ingrid exclaimed. That's not good. You should try and catch up on your sleep. Hilda said. Mercedes nodded sternly with her. I'll give you my lap if you need it. Oh no. No, I am fine. Very fine. Please, offer that to someone who needs it more, Ingrid said desperately, and she looked at Sylvain from the corner of her eye. She was signaling for him to not tell Hilda at any cost. Weird. I completely forgot what we used to call His Highness when we were younger. Sylvain lied. Oh well. We can't do anything about that, huh? Ingrid added quickly. Has your memory started to slip already? It wasn't even that long ago, Felix snapped. You were so annoying, with your cries of. Sylvain immediately lunged for Felix and tried to put him in a one-armed chokehold, because it looked casual and kept Felix from talking. Except, naturally, Felix slapped his hand away and dodged. I remember now. We used to call him Little Ingrid. Sylvain exclaimed as Felix demanded to know what had gotten into him. Right, because he was shorter than me, and we're both blonde, so he looked like he could be my little sibling. Ingrid added. She didn't mention that she meant little sister. Ah, Hilda said, almost disappointed. Felix was very confused but a glare from Ingrid and Sylvain kept his mouth shut. Incredi Baker dude, you're Dimitri's childhood friend too. Do you call him anything special? Hilda asked. Your Highness, Didu answered, somehow knowing that she meant him. Hilda paused. I mean, if Claude can make Princess a nickname. Hilda said. No, please don't. Ash yelled, standing and slamming his hands on the table. My desk. Please, just take a moment to think about the consequences of your actions. Annette begged Hilda. Because this was what Ash was imagining. Your Highness. Hilda called out cutely. Did I do something to anger you? I apologize with all my heart. And this was what Annette was thinking. Your Highness. Hilda called out cutely. Did I do something to Fredj Voeaha? I thought that, since I'm wearing this maid outfit, origin not important, I might as well pay my respects. What do you think? And then Dimitri got a heart attack and died instantly. Please, Hilde, I'm begging you. Annette cried out. Spare him. And then Hilda paused. Hilde. It's such a cute nickname. She said in awe. Thank you. Hilda was very pleased as she said her goodbyes and left, humming from the delight of having the cute nickname she wanted. The Blue Lions let out a sigh of relief. Annette's quick thinking had spared Dmitri from a heart attack. And then Dida ran, because his instincts told him something terrible was happening in a kitchen and it involved Dmitri. He met up with Hubert on the way, because Hubert had a similar feeling regarding Edelgard. "Oh, no, Your Highness, put that sauce away," Claude ordered. "The wine in it really doesn't mesh well with the spices we're using." "I apologize, Claude," Dmitri said. "I'll leave the rest in your hands." Claude turned to Edelgard, who was attempting to cut the meat. She glared at her knife in frustration as she tried to saw off a nice, even cut of meat. The knife handle was beginning to crack in her hand. "You all right there, princess?" "Claude, this knife is too small and impractical for this task. Might I get a larger blade?" "How large are we speaking, here?" "An axe, Claude." And Claude had so many problems with this. First of all, that was so unsanitary. Also, please don't break anything. Also, please stop doing this. But he had so many problems that he couldn't figure out how to say them all fast enough, and before he did, Dmitri spoke up, and he said, "Oh, that's a wonderful idea. With your control over your strength, I'm sure you'll be able to manage it well." Claude turned to stare at Dmitri in shock, before Edelgard went outside and walked back in with an axe. Just in and out. And Claude's disbelief was replaced with, "Edelgard, why the fuck are you hiding weapons on school grounds?" Claude didn't manage to move fast enough to keep Edelgard from quickly wiping her axe blade and smashing the axe into the meat, which, sort of broke the fucking counter. Claude was torn between, "Okay, this is what we are doing now, and how the fuck are you guys doing this?" "Okay, that's great, we have our meat now," Claude said calmly. "Princess, can you just turn on the stove? Don't do anything else until we're ready. Just turn it on at low heat." And Edelgard nodded, and Claude decided, hey, Dmitri meant well, he was just a bit clumsy. So he focused on showing Dmitri how to tenderize the meat. 5 seconds later, the cut of meat was reduced to mush. Claude didn't even bother questioning this anymore, so he just went, "All right, we're doing porridge. Let's grab some potatoes and..." "The stove is hot," Edelgard reported. "It's on fire," Claude said flatly. "I said low heat." "How did you do this?" Edelgard hesitated. "I thought it was too low. So, I used magic." "We should probably try and extinguish this," Dmitri said. That was when Hubert and Dida broke down the door. Dida was carrying Ignatz under his arm, and let the bespectacled boy down on the floor. It took Ignatz 3 uses of Fimbulvator to extinguish the fire. In the charred, slightly broken ruins of the kitchen, Claude started laughing his ass off. Edelgard and Dmitri stared at him for a moment, before chuckling too. Eventually, the 3 house leaders were just laughing in the mess as their 3 saviors looked on in bemused amusement. "You're giving Edie and Dmitri cooking lessons?" Hilda asked, eyes narrowed suspiciously. Wow, Hilda, that's very rude." "I can cook perfectly well, thank you very much," Claude replied. "Oh, yes, you cook perfectly well when you're not mixing random things together just to see what would happen," Hilda said flatly. "What can I say? I'm a visionary. I see potential in things beyond common sense. If you teach them to cook oranges with mustard, I'm going to punch you." Chapter 47. Professor Manuela just sighed and took a sip of her drink when she heard that the kitchen was wrecked again. This was like the 3rd time this year. She just couldn't care anymore. "Please never set foot in the kitchen again unless someone is there to supervise," she said simply. Claude counted as a supervisor because his cooking was actually pretty good if he wasn't mixing peppers and mint to see what would happen. They weren't even punished because Professor Manuela just knew they didn't mean to set it on fire, it just sort of happened. Still, this took some valuable time out of their day. "Gosh, it really is getting colder outside," Hilda said, holding her mug of hot chocolate with a smile. "Thanks for letting us in your room, Detta." "And no problem," Bernadetta replied shyly, because this was a huge step for her and she was incredibly nervous about it. "I am appreciating it," Petra told her. "Sitting inside with friends with some hot chocolate on a cold day, it's really fun, isn't it?" Hilda asked. And Bernadetta was glad, because Hilda was enough of a good conversationalist that even when faced with a social recluse and someone unfamiliar with the language, she managed to drag them into a friendly discussion. "Yeah, it's fun," Bernadetta said, before hurriedly taking a sip of her hot chocolate to cover up her blush. "The cold of this place is strange to me," Petra stated. "This drink is like the warm sun of Bridget in one cup. I am thankful for it." Hilda laughed. Yep, it was so worth running from the dining hall to Detta's room with the kettle. "I really didn't expect you to do that, but we got to enjoy hot chocolate thanks to you, so, thanks." Petra nodded along, and Hilda smiled. "Ah, you're making me blush." "Thanks." It was then that Petra asked something. "I have heard the rumors of something called snowfall when it is sufficiently chilled, but I have not seen anything of the sort. Is Garagmok not suitable for such weather?" The other two paused to think. "Now that you mention it," Hilda said. "Isn't it weird that we haven't gotten any snow? We are in the mountains, and it's winter, so why haven't we gotten any?" Bernadetta wondered. "Unless it's a curse. Time will stay frozen in spring forever until. Or maybe it's just magic? Like a magic barrier that keeps it from snowing here. Maybe if we went out into town, we'd see some." Hilda offered. Wait, are you inviting?" Bernadetta couldn't even finish the question. "Only if you want to," Hilda said to the both of them. "Just being able to sit here with friends is fun." "Yes. Rather than chase after the idea of snow, I am most currently thankful for this moment right now," Petra said. Bernadetta felt herself get a little overwhelmed with emotion, so she hurriedly drank more of her hot chocolate to cover it up. Then Hilda turned the conversation from snow to the bits of unfinished embroidery around Bernadetta's room. Before Bernadetta could scream in embarrassment, Hilda deftly praised her work until Bernadetta was teaching the two of them how to make little flowers in cloth with fine detail. Her hands were a little shaky, but the attention actually felt kinda good. "Go Bernie. I wonder where everyone is," Edelgard said as she and the other house leaders escaped from their slight scolding. "Perhaps they're inside to escape the chill," Dmitri offered. "Yeah, it's the perfect weather to be holed up inside. We should probably get inside too," Claude exclaimed hurriedly, pushing them towards the dorms, because the truth was, in the Black Eagle's classroom. 5 years, Dorothea stated, putting a little pin on the table. 2 days, Lysathea countered. "I stand by my 2 years, Mercedes said bluntly. "So cynical." "I believe in her," Ingrid declared. "What about His Highness?" Ash asked. "Don't you believe in High?" "Not at all," Felix interjected. "Nope," Sylvain said. "There wasn't a real strict division between the betting and not betting groups. Ignatz was betting, but also, Linhard had fallen asleep on him again. Ferdinand and Lawrence had brought tea to the betting table despite talking about how gambling was a vice. Leonie was not betting anything but she was still sitting next to Dorothea. Hubert was watching from the shadows as Raphael started talking food with Ingrid. Cyril wasn't there because he was cleaning with Annette. He wanted to do it alone, but Annette was a force of nature when she wanted to be. They were having a great time. "Faergus is pretty cold and snowy, huh?" Hilda said the next day, at the dining table. "Yeah, what about it?" Claude asked. "If I ever went there, I'd probably freeze," Hilda noted. "I hope that does not discourage you from ever visiting," Dmitri said. "Of course not. Just keep me really warm and I'll be fine." What would that entail, exactly?" What do you think?" Hilda asked, leaning towards Dmitri and hugging his arm with a grin. Ingrid and Ash were cheering for her. Mercedes sipped her tea in the most resigned fashion possible. "I'll be sure to help you get warm clothing," Dmitri exclaimed hurriedly, making Hilda laugh. If it were possible, Mercedes would have sipped her tea harder. "There you go," Hilda said. "I'll be sure to visit with a cute and warm outfit." "I don't, what?" Edelgard asked as Claude sighed. No, I refuse." Whereas everyone else was resigned to what they were seeing, Edelgard got up and did something about it. She could not let things go on like this. Get out of the dining hall, go to wherever private place you need to go, and sort out your obviously requited feelings for each other. Edelgard ordered, her hand bursting into flames. Princess. No. I will set your meals aflame if you don't. Edelgard. Hilda and Dmitri exchanged a glance, before Hilda stood up. You heard the lady, Dmitri. Let's go. Wait, Er. Hilda dragged Dmitri off. Hilda. The two of them came to a stop behind a pillar in the entrance hall. It's more comfortable when no one is watching, right? Hilda asked. You don't have to feel pressured to accept or anything here. Hilda's hand was still holding his. If you want to turn me down, it's fine, Hilda said, we can still be friends and tell everyone that we're better off that way. She smiled up at him softly. It's not as if I want to turn you down, Dmitri said softly. I would also enjoy that, but what's stopping you? And Dmitri wanted to say that he wasn't used to this, that being so happy scared him, but instead, he said, are you sure about me? Yeah. I like you a lot, Dmitri, Hilda confessed, and I think you like me a lot too. So what's stopping us from being happy together, right here, right now? Is this really alright? Can I really be so selfish? What's selfish about this? Hilda asked, squeezing Dmitri's hand. I have my duties to the dead. Are you really okay with a man like me? Yeah, Hilda answered. Are you okay with me? Dmitri hesitated, raising his armored hand to her face slowly. Hilda was grinning as she put her hand over his. I don't want to come off as too forward, Dmitri said shyly. If you don't want to, you can push me away at any time. But, I would like to kiss you right now. Dmitri. Just kiss me already. And he did. Hilda went up on her tiptoes, Dmitri leaned over, and they met in the middle. Her arms wrapped around his shoulders and pulled him closer. It was awkward at first, especially on Dmitri's end. But, as they kept going, Dmitri got a bit more, confident really wasn't the right word for it. It was more like he got really frustrated. When Hilda stumbled after being on her tiptoes for so long, Dmitri wrapped his arms around her waist, picked her up, and pinned her against the pillar. She wrapped her leg around his waist in response, making it easier on both of them. When he realized that his gauntlets were keeping him from being able to touch her more, he practically ripped them off. He paused after removing the gauntlets. Dmitri was breathing heavily as he realized that Hilda was staring at the burn scars on his hands. He fully expected her to be disgusted and stop, but Hilda pulled his wrists closer and pressed kisses to the palms of his hands. It was like she sent electricity coursing through him with that. The feeling of his heart racing, his rapid breathing, it was almost overwhelming. Hilda lifted a hand to Dmitri's hair as he sort of lost control of himself a little. He pressed kisses all over her face, not caring if he missed her lips or not. One of his hands was holding her just below her ribs, the other was grabbing the underside of her knee to help keep her up. Dmitri pressed a kiss to Hilda's neck, and his name left her mouth in a breathless whisper. That was all it took for Dmitri to remember that, hey, they were in a school and his behavior was completely socially unacceptable. He tried to pull away, an apology already on his lips, but you're not gonna keep going? Hilda asked, looking almost disappointed. Her chest was heaving, her hair was a mess, and her clothes were starting to get wrinkled from their actions. In that moment, Dmitri decided that, selfish or not, it would be a crime to disappoint her. I hope, with all my heart, that you don't regret this, he said softly. Don't worry. I won't let our memories be sad ones, she answered, right before he pressed their lips together once again. It took almost an hour for Hilda and Dmitri to remember that hey, they were in the middle of doing something. Eating. Yeah. They walked back inside holding hands, blushing, very disheveled, and flustered. Their food had long gotten cold by that point. Lysathea was raking in her winnings. Edelgard was very proud of herself. This incident single-handedly made Edelgard one of the most popular people in the school. Chapter 48. Teach, We're holding a feast to celebrate Hilda and Dmitri finally getting together and the princess who helped them do it, Claude said. Is there any way you can fish up like 20? He didn't even get to finish the question before Byleth started throwing fish after fish onto the kitchen counter. Do you just carry around an entire storehouse of fish at all times? Claude asked. Byleth didn't answer, because they started pulling out plants and meat that could be used too. Teach, I have so many questions right now. Byleth shushed him, because Suthies was screaming and flailing and cheering over the foolish mortals finally going along with fate and destiny and being happy together, and it was loud and headache-inducing. Claude was offended, but then Byleth went above and beyond and started organizing the menu for him. Byleth even helped the chef team cook, thereby avoiding all of his questions. Meanwhile, there were teams meant to keep Edelgard and the new couple away from the dining hall until everything was ready. Unfortunately, Raphael was on the team to keep Edelgard busy, which meant that Hubert was confused and baffled by Raphael being kind and jovial with Edelgard. He and Ignatz had dragged her into a conversation about all the fun things merchants could see and do. Hubert's confusion wasn't really important though. Anyways, the team keeping track of Dmitri and Hilda was just his childhood friends. They were totally spying. Ash would have loved to also spy, but he was cooking. Ingrid promised to tell him everything after. The two of them were visiting the greenhouse for flowers and warmth, but the greenhouse keeper had been called to help Byleth with their massive amount of plants. This meant that they were alone. Together. In an enclosed space. Dimitri's childhood friends didn't even expect them to start kissing, but they were still surprised and stunned when Dmitri moved as far away from Hilda as possible without leaving the building. Did you find something cool? Hilda asked, walking towards Dmitri. Wait, please don't step any closer. Dmitri yelled. Damn it, Dmitri, why are you doing this? Huh. I apologize with all my heart, Dmitri said hurriedly, his face red, but I fear that, if we were close enough to touch, I might do something incredibly inappropriate to you. What? I had a disturbing fantasy about kissing you yesterday, and I would like to not do anything of the sort in real life. Dmitri? You realize that actually happened, right? What? It was really great. Hilda exclaimed with a giddy smile on her face. I mean, yeah, you were awkward at first, but then you picked me up and pinned me to the pillar. Holy shit, Dmitri. You grew up so much. Soon, you'll be just like your big bro Sylvain. Sylvain, no, stop. Shut up. Dmitri began stammering and sweating as Hilda kept approaching him. You really worry too much. Hilda said. If you decide to do something incredibly inappropriate, like kissing me again, I won't mind at all. That, Hilda. I'm your girlfriend, after all. Dmitri completely overloaded at that. He covered his bright red face with his hands, hunching over in his desperate attempt to hide his embarrassment. Sorry, Hilda said as she patted him on the shoulder in a comforting manner. That was too much, wasn't it? We can go as slow as you need to, okay? No rush. She reached up and patted Dmitri on the head, making Dimitri's eyes fly open and shoulders tense. Dmitri. I am so incredibly sorry for my shameful desires. Dmitri, where are you going? Hilda grabbed Dmitri by the wrist to keep him from outright leaving the greenhouse. He looked back at her timidly, before diverting his eyes. Cute, Hilda thought, before saying, you don't have to be so embarrassed. It's not shameful or selfish or anything. Oh, Your Highness. Please just listen to her. She offered her hand to Dmitri with a bright smile. Come on, I want to show you the violets. Is it really all right? Dmitri asked. Geez, I really don't get why you're so reluctant to reach out for what you want. Hilda exclaimed. Whoever said that it wasn't okay? Who would ever want you to not be happy? Now, Dmitri took this as a slap to the face, except instead of being painful, it was a reminder that the dead never asked him to wallow in regret and pain forever. In fact, he knew on some level that there were many who would want him to be happy, but he was too guilt-ridden to accept this most of the time. But Hilda was thinking something more along the lines of you're not even worried because it's improper or anything. You just seem to not accept that you can receive affection, and I refuse to let this go on. He carefully took her hand. Hilda smiled as she intertwined their fingers, before pulling him over to the violets. Thank the goddess for Hilda. Shut up. Staring at the flowers, Dmitri couldn't help but remember another moment they had spent together in the greenhouse. It was then that he got an idea. Hilda. Before his courage could fail him, he knelt down and plucked a violet from the dirt. Standing back up, Dmitri brushed her hair behind her ear with his fingers and placed the flower there as well. You said you liked flowers over weapons as a gift, right? He asked. And Hilda was silent. Just as he was about to ask if he picked a flower she hated or something, Hilda hugged him. Dmitri froze awkwardly. Geez, you're such a sweetheart. What am I supposed to do when you're this cute? Hilda demanded. Hilda. Seriously, you're the cutest. The best. Dmitri couldn't really handle this sort of thing at all. He was already blushing. Ah, Dmitri. Lean down a bit, please. Hilda asked excitedly as she pulled away. Feeling a bit saddened by her letting go, Dmitri did just as she asked. And then she lightly tugged on his collar, pulling his head down enough for her to kiss his cheek. Thanks for the flower, Dmitri. Hilda exclaimed, as Dmitri started emotionally melting in her hands. I'm glad that you appreciate it, Dmitri said quietly. Ingrid, are you crying? Yes. I am. What a pain. And then the new couple and Edelgard were ushered into the dining hall. Hilda was torn between bursting into laughter or screaming at how dramatic Claude was. Dmitri didn't even register that it was a feast for them. He was just wondering if he forgot a holiday. Edelgard was in a similar mindset, until Claude outright told them what the feast was for. Me? Edelgard asked. Claude nodded, saying, Princess, everyone was waiting for this. You are literally the school's savior. The cheers of the other students and Manuela and Suthies backed him up. Hold on, why would you go so far for this? Dmitri demanded, as Hilda was repressing giggles behind him. What are you talking about, Your Highness? Everyone was cheering you two on. We're sharing in your happiness. More cheers rung out, but one in particular reached Dmitri's ears. I'm sure the late king would be delighted to see this. He couldn't identify who had said that, but Dmitri looked over his shoulder at Hilda, who shot him a smile. Somehow, his chest felt a bit lighter as they went to eat with everyone. Chapter 49. So, why is Teach's hair green now? Claude asked as Byleth ate with Ash and Felix a table away. It's a very long story, Edelgard answered. No worries, I love the sound of your voice. Edelgard flushed as Claude winked, before stammering through the start of the story. It really was long. So long that Hilda drifted off around the time Solon died and just leaned on Dmitri's shoulder. That meant that Dmitri wasn't paying attention either. And then Hilda snapped to attention, suddenly blurting out, if you two got married you could rule most of Fodlan. What? Claude and Edelgard. If you got married. That's like 2/3 of Fodlan, Hilda said. What? Edelgard said, still baffled by Hilda's words. I think it's a little more than that, Claude added, internally cursing himself for not thinking of something like this sooner. Oh. Dmitri said. Are you another possible heir to the kingdom's throne? Only if everyone else in line is dead, which isn't going to happen, Claude said casually. I'd rather leave the kingdom to you, really. If we were to get married, and Dmitri were to remain our ally. Edelgard muttered under her breath. And if you had kids that married Dmitri's kids, you could basically mash up all the countries anyways, Hilda noted. Hilda, I think you just came up with a 3-step plan for world peace, Claude said. What? Hilda asked. Step 1, Edelgard and I get hitched and rule over like 3 different countries. We're still friends with you and Dmitri. Step 2, babies. Step 3, the babies also get hitched when they're old enough, Claude said, before staring at his fingers for a second. Step 4, world peace. That's 4 steps, Hilda pointed out. Step 4 is a stealth attack. There's no way I would just straight up tell anyone how my plans are configured so easily. You just miscounted how many steps there were, didn't you? As Hilda and Claude playfully bickered, they kind of didn't notice Edelgard and Dimitri sinking into darker thoughts. Another nightmare. I was naive to think I could be so selfish. Dimitri thought, before wondering. Then, would they be happier if I got revenge and tried to be happy? My path will most likely bring me into conflict with the kingdom, just as Claude said. In the end, if I cannot persuade them to see my view, then nostalgia, or not, I will have to strike them down, won't I? I cannot believe you call yourself a schemer when you can't even count how many steps there are in your plan. Ouch. I can feel my heart shattering. Princess, comfort me, would you? Claude asked, dramatically draping himself over Edelgard's shoulders. His voice managed to pull her out of her own headspace. Edelgard felt herself smile as she patted Claude's back. Hilda hugged Dimitri's arm and stuck out her tongue at Claude. Dimitri couldn't help but feel more anchored to the present by her touch. And then Edelgard's eyes widened at a sudden whisper in her ear. She looked over to Claude, who smiled innocently. He could practically see the gears in her head spinning frantically. Not that he could blame her, really. Learning that she honestly could have 3 nations in her hand with him must have been a massive game-changer. But, would it be enough to dissuade her? Too optimistic, Edelgard decided, some of Claude's words during their wyvern ride coming to her mind. If you don't want the kingdom to be your enemy, you can either convince them to stand against the church or point their swords at the pains in your neck. It's obvious which one is easier, isn't it? Though, Claude only said that in an attempt to prepare a failsafe if she couldn't be convinced not to go to war. Those very words convinced her to keep going with her original plans. Chapter 50. Of course, the start of a new month meant the start of new schemes. I think I got a lead in one book, but I can't exactly figure out what it means. Maybe I could ask Linhard if he knows anything about the subject. Then, Mercedes, Marianne, and Ignatz, since they know the church's teachings more intimately than I do. Claude thought. If I can get Hilda to make flower crowns or something with Edelgard and Dimitri, then it would be a perfectly productive day. Since it was Hilda's birthday in 2 days, he obviously planned to find a way to get her to win over Edelgard and Dimitri even more. And then he ran into Hilda, who was holding a letter. Claude. I need to go and help my brother. Hilda said desperately. Fuck. Come back safely, Dimitri said, waving goodbye to the golden deer with the rest of the blue lions and the black eagles. Of course we will. Hilda exclaimed. Eradicate the enemy and set their cities aflame, Edelgard said, before Claude's stunned expression made her follow up with, what? It was an attempt to rally your spirits. At Claude's continued staring, Edelgard remembered that he was actually going to subdue his own countrymen. Whoops. Princess, please just. I don't know, try something more like a kiss on the cheek? Please. What? Hilda, you agree that kisses on the cheek are a very good goodbye, right? Claude asked. And then he saw that Dimitri was completely red and on the verge of melting, even though Hilda was just holding his hand. Never mind. Hilda was confused, before going back to what she was doing, which was putting a palm-sized box in Dimitri's palm. Hilda. It's a birthday gift. Hilda exclaimed happily. But it's going to be your birthday? Dimitri asked. Hilda laughed shyly, averting her eyes. I just sort of had you on my mind, so. I got you something. Her voice ventured back into excitement at the end, even though she was clearly blushing. Hope it makes you happy. And Dimitri wanted to say that it was too much, that she had already given him enough happiness, but. Well, we'll be back soon. Don't miss me too much. Hilda said with a wink. And then he missed his chance to return the gift. The table feels a bit empty without the golden deer, Ash noted at lunchtime. Edelgard had excused herself earlier, saying something about contacting her uncle. It'll only be a few days, Ingrid reassured him. Oh, but this means we miss Hilda's birthday. Maybe we should bake a cake for when they return, so it's one big party. That's a great idea. Sylvain exclaimed. Of course, we'd have to leave some time for His Highness to be alone with his girlfriend. Speaking of, where is he? Ingrid asked. He went off to train around the time the deer left, Felix stated. Wasn't that 4 hours ago? Ash asked. They realized in horror that Hilda being absent meant that no one was there to keep Dmitri from overworking himself. And Dmitri, well, he had never been too good at knowing when to rest in the first place, but for Hilda to be gone after he had gotten used to her arrival signaling the end of his workout. Thankfully, Geralt was there to ask what the hell Dmitri was still doing in the training grounds. Dmitri immediately apologized, before rushing off. He felt a bit lightheaded, so he decided to gradually cool down with a walk around school grounds instead of sitting down and eating. A walk was relaxing enough, so once that was done, he grabbed some food and went to study. A perfectly productive day, if one that ended with him not speaking to anyone much. Dmitri woke with a start. He was in his bedroom, in Gareg Mach, breathing heavily. Nightmare. Again. He lit a candle. He knew it was pointless to try and get more sleep after that. In the candlelight, he noticed the box he left on his desk. Hilda's gift. Dmitri hadn't opened it, feeling that he didn't deserve it. But, he was a bit curious. Pushing away the images of dead bodies and disgusted faces, Dmitri opened it. The first thing he noticed was a letter covering the contents. When he removed the letter, he found that the box contained a slab of clay. Confused, Dmitri opened the letter. Dear Dmitri. I know it's a weird gift, but, well, you can't really break it, right? Maybe if you practice controlling your strength with this, you'll be able to do finer work like, I don't know, painting or embroidery or whatever. Whatever you want, really. I got it for you so you could relax. Just playing with it could help calm your nerves. And you always seem so dutiful. You live enough of your life for other people's sakes, so take the time to relax and take care of yourself. You don't have to accept it if you don't want to. I understand how annoying it is when someone hovers over you and worries about you too much, so feel free to just throw it out if you hate it. Hilda. Dmitri slowly took the clay out of its container, wondering what he did to deserve someone who cared for him this much. It was a bit cool to the touch and left his fingers feeling strange. After a while, he took to just toying with the clay. It gave his hands something to do as he wondered just what he could do to repay her, if only a little. It would be her birthday, but they couldn't celebrate it together. What would Hilda want? Dmitri's attention came back to his hands. At the sight of the clay in his palms, he got an idea. His idea blew up in his face, because, well, of course it did. Dmitri knew that you had to bake clay in order for it to become solid, but apparently, he had let the oven become too hot. His attempt at a gift crumbled away to ash in his hands. Thankfully, he hadn't used all of the clay, so he managed another attempt at a lower heat. That one managed to come out rather well, until he accidentally broke it. His friends were cheering him on, though. With, lots of glue, they managed to stick his creation back together, then paint it to cover up the cracks. Remembering something, Dmitri took care to dip the ends in a different colored dye, making the center a different color than the petals around it. Bernadetta helped with the fine details, while Dida helped him with the wire work. Sylvain picked out the form with his expertise in women's jewelry. Dmitri didn't feel quite right only giving Hilda such an amateur creation, so Mercedes, Annette, and Ash helped him bake some sweets without burning the kitchen down. Edelgard helped him gather some flowers she would like. Ingrid and Felix went along with him as he went to get her a new axe. Linhard was being supportive and also being asleep, Casper was being supportive and also being loud, Petra told him about hot chocolate, and Dorothea bluntly told him to kiss her. Dmitri didn't go to Hubert for help. Hubert did not seem like he could help with this. Hubert was more the type to ask if one needed to hide a body. So, basically, the return of the golden deer went a little like this. Everyone returned to their friends. Hilda and Claude were chatting at a leisurely pace, even though Hilda was talking anxiously and Claude was shaken by her words. I mean, it has a pulse, Hilda said, adding emphasis with her hand motions. It's so creepy looking, too. Why does that axe look like it's made of bones? Holy shit, it might be made of bones. The relics might be made of bones, Claude said flatly. They sure look like they are. Hilda exclaimed. Why did my brother want me to take it? As Claude's mind was rattled by the idea, the two of them went back to their dorm rooms. And then they both froze. There was a massive pile of stuff in the middle of the hallway. All around one door. I can't even get back into my room, Felix told Dimitri a bit further into the hallway. Why are you so excessive? How is this necessary? Maybe it wouldn't have gotten so crowded if someone didn't suggest an axe as a present, Sylvain said pointedly. What? No. Of course the axe was a good idea. Ingrid exclaimed. It's still a while until they get here, so maybe we can rearrange it to be easier to traverse. She trailed off as she saw Hilda and Claude behind Dimitri's back. Sylvain and Felix quickly noticed what she had seen. Arg, of course this was a bad idea. Dimitri said softly. Your Highness. I'll throw it all out before they get back. I apologize for inconveniencing all of you. Dude? Your Highness. She's right there, Felix stated, right before Hilda ran over. You did all this for me? Hilda demanded in shock. Hilda. Gosh, what did I ever do to deserve someone as cute as you? Hilda exclaimed as she hugged Dimitri. Claude burst into laughter, before Hilda decided to move some of the gifts into her room. Most of them, however, were going to be shared, since, well. No offense, Dimitri, I appreciate the effort and intent and all, but just one bouquet is fine, she told him as she gave the other 4 to Byleth. Byleth immediately started dividing the bouquets into individual flower types and putting them away. Somewhere. She divided half the sweets amongst her friends, because, again, she appreciated him baking for her, but there was way too many. And besides, it made her happy to see her friends enjoying it. No one really objected to her dragging Dimitri into her room after she figured out how much she would keep for herself. They just kind of dispersed to give them some privacy. Dimitri was seated on Hilda's desk chair as she put the flowers in a vase and set it on her desk. She couldn't figure out where to put the axe, so she just sort of left it by the door and hoped it wouldn't damage her floor if it fell over. Then, she sat on her bed with the other 2 gifts she had brought in with her. Did you make these? Hilda asked after opening one box, revealing a set of sweet buns. I had the assistance of others in my house, Dimitri said. The reason those treats are edible is surely thanks to them. You're way too humble, Dimitri, Hilda replied. You really worked hard to make these, so thanks. Before Dimitri could say she was putting too much stock in his abilities, she took a sweet bun and held it up to his face. Try it out for yourself, Dimitri. Hilda huffed. I'm sure you'll like it. Wait, I can feed myself. Nope, this is your punishment for not admitting your skill. Hilda said with a wink. Embarrassed, Dimitri let her feed him the bun. Dimitri hadn't recovered enough to give an actual rating of his baking by the time Hilda tried one herself. It's good. Hilda exclaimed happily. It's not too sugary and it's nice and chewy. Dimitri decided not to mention that he accidentally spilled the sugar. And dropped too much flour into the bowl after a question about the 2 of them. When the 2 of them finished the sweets, Hilda licked the icing off of her fingers. Dimitri absolutely wasn't staring at the motion, nor was he thinking of how she had fed him with that same hand, her fingers brushing against his lips. With a happy smile, she wiped her hands with a handkerchief and reached for the last box. Dimitri's eyes widened when he recognized which one that was. He thought he had removed that one. Wait, that one, you shouldn't open it, Dimitri said. How come? It's really not well made, Dimitri admitted. It wouldn't really serve much use except as a decoration, but I don't think its appearance is suited for that purpose either. Did you make it? Hilda asked. I did, though, unlike the buns, the strengths of others weren't enough to cover up my own failings. Dimitri, Hilda said. You're too serious about this. She shot him with a beaming smile, and Dimitri couldn't protest. Of course I'm going to appreciate something you made just for me, Hilda stated as she started to lift the lid. I mean, you put so much effort into it. She opened the box fully, revealing a hardened clay sculpture on a pin. There were small threaded stars hanging from the flower-shaped sculpture. It was meant to be a hairpin, but it's too unwieldy to ever be worn properly, Dmitri said. And, while the stars and pin itself are fine, the flower. It was lopsided, simple, and the painting wasn't evenly coated. I love it, Hilda said. Pardon. I mean, if you want to make me another one, I won't ever object, but... Dmitri, I didn't even need anything from you in the first place. Hilda exclaimed. I was going to be happy if we just hung out on my birthday, and maybe kissed, but then you did your absolute best and gave me all these thoughtful gifts. Setting the hairpin down on her bed, Hilda stood up and hugged Dmitri. He suddenly sat up straight in her chair, his heart racing. Thank you, she said sincerely, leaning over her chin on his shoulder. Dmitri felt his head go blank. He struggled to recapture his train of thought, but all his mind wanted to focus on was her warmth. Slowly, he raised his hand. For a second, he hesitated, before he placed his hand on her back. This much is fine, right? He wondered. Really, he wanted more, but if he tried, his heart would probably explode. Or he'd die of shame. Whichever one came first. Hilda pulled away, and Dmitri tried not to feel too saddened by that. But, Hilda paused, her face right before his. Dmitri couldn't help but feel a bit ensnared. If he moved forward, then. You didn't sleep well last night, did you? Hilda asked, snapping him out of his trance. It's fine, Dmitri replied, trying to get his heartbeat back under control. Hilda hummed in suspicion as she leaned towards him, turning her head to examine his face from another angle. If you're fine, won't you do something for me? Hilda asked with a smile. What would that be? Dmitri asked. I've always dreamed of having a boyfriend rest his head in my lap and fall asleep, Hilda said. You don't mind helping me live it out, right? If that's, what you wish. Dmitri answered. Hilda brightened as she moved the objects on her bed away. She patted her thigh with a wink. He took off his greaves and boots, unwilling to possibly dirty her bed, even by accident. Then, Dmitri laid down, placing his head on Hilda's lap. She was smiling down at him eagerly. He really wanted to ask her how in the world she thought he'd be able to sleep with his heart racing so badly, but then Hilda asked him if he was comfortable. I am, Dmitri answered. Oh, so you sleep in gauntlets? Hilda asked. Dmitri realized that he had completely forgotten to remove those. He sat up quickly, almost scrambling to pull them off. No more. Hilda asked teasingly. Please forgive me, but I do not think I could possibly go to sleep like that, Dmitri said. I'm sorry that I couldn't help you achieve your dream. Hilda laughed. Don't worry, I have a ton of dreams you can help with, Hilda said. If you can't sleep on my lap, then I'll just have to fall asleep in your arms again, okay? All right, Dmitri answered. He opened his arms a bit more smoothly than last time. Hilda gladly hugged him, and the two of them fell back onto the soft bed. She settled into the space by his side, his right arm over her shoulders. Thanks for going along with my nonsense, Dmitri. Hilda said, resting her head on his chest. I'm just glad that I could make you happy, Dmitri answered. Your heart's beating really fast, Hilda noted. Does that mean you like it too? Yes. Doing something like this. I'm grateful for this, he told her. I'm glad, it'd suck if I was just forcing my wishes on you. Tell me if I ever do that, okay? I promise, Dmitri answered. There was a moment of comfortable silence, before Dmitri wondered. Hilda. Could I? I would like to, touch you. Not anywhere inappropriate, but... Go ahead. Hilda said easily. Dmitri's left hand came up to pat her head. He was carefully taking in the feel of her hair under his hand, the smile she gave him as he did. Her eyes fluttered shut. He moved his hand to cup her face, delighting in the feeling of her skin against his calloused fingers, her warmth, and... His thumb went a bit too far, and schemed across her lips. You know, a kiss would be fine too, Hilda said, her eyes still closed. Dmitri jolted at the sound, making her laugh. Just saying. And Dmitri decided. Please don't mind me, then, Dmitri replied, moving his hand to her chin. He tilted her face towards him before kissing her. After they woke up from their little nap, as Dmitri was lacing up his gauntlets to leave, a certain question fell from his lips. You said you had dreams of having a lover, right? Dmitri asked. Am I living up to your standards? To be honest, if someone told me a year ago that I'd wind up dating you, I would tell them to stop lying and that I would have realistic standards. Is that a good thing? Dmitri asked. Yeah, Hilda said with a smile. It means that you're really too good to be true. Oh, Dmitri said. Hilda giggled, before pressing a kiss to his cheek. Have good dreams tonight. I think I will, Dmitri answered, returning her grin. Chapter 51. Princess? Where are you? Claude called out, trying to stay calm. What is with your incessant shouting? Hubert grumbled. Hubert. Where is she? Claude asked. Lady Edelgard. Yeah, who else? She's out, preparing something very important, Hubert said, and Claude's reaction was oh hell no. Now, if you'll excuse me. No, the second you see her, tell her that she has to talk to me. No preparations, no nothing, no signals, no anything, Claude said, punctuating each and every one of his words with a dramatic hand gesture. All right, Hubert said, as Claude continued his search. Now, Edelgard had just returned from shopping for flowers in town, having seen this exchange from a while away. She hadn't heard anything either of them had said, but she saw Claude's motions. That ridiculous dance. It's the signal for the attack. Edelgard thought. Claude given her a set of phony signals that he never planned on actually using ever, because he didn't approve of the plan. Just as you wish, Claude. I'll prepare for the attack now. She ran off in the direction she came from, before Hubert could see her. Byleth. Kid. Edelgard. Princess. The two paused in their search, exchanging a glance. Something happened to Teach? Claude asked, wondering if Geralt looking for Byleth was related to Edelgard's mysterious absence. I've had a bad feeling for a while now, Geralt admitted. The Archbishop's been trying to drag them off to the Holy Tomb, so I've been trying to keep them from being with her, but then I had to go on a mission. Claude's eyes widened. I'll look for them too, Claude declared, let me help. Geralt didn't actually know anything about what was happening, aside from the fact that Rhea was worrying. But he wouldn't say no to help. As Claude was going around, searching, his friends decided to help out. By the time Claude and Geralt checked the Holy Tomb itself, just about everyone in the three houses was tagging along with them. Byleth. Geralt yelled as he charged in, and, please, just sit on the throne. Rhea screamed, hanging off of Byleth's leg. Byleth stomped towards their father and the students, dragging the Archbishop with every step. What's happening? Hilda asked bluntly. Professor Byleth explained how Lady Rhea sort of kind of dragged them into the Holy Tomb the moment Geralt wasn't around and then tried to convince them to sit on an ominous throne. However, Geralt had told them not to do weird things like that. So they refused. And Rhea tried to threaten them. And they refused. And Rhea pulled out a sword. And they still refused, because they were much better at wielding a sword than her. No matter how Rhea tried to fight, Byleth managed to beat her, until she was reduced to begging. That's kind of sad, Claude said, watching as Byleth shook Rhea off their leg and kept walking. Lady Rhea, this behavior is unbecoming of the Archbishop, Dmitri said, kneeling down to help her up. Please, let us. And then Rhea started crying. This wasn't a situation literally anyone was equipped to deal with, at all. Eventually she just got a hug from Annette and started sobbing about her tragic backstory and how almost everyone she loved was turned into weapons and how she just wanted everything back. Not many people knew how to handle having their entire view of history and heroes' relics and crests turned on its head, except for Annette and Mercedes. There. Mercedes said, wiping Rhea's tears with a handkerchief. It's okay, Annette added, rubbing Ria's back. Then, Byleth tapped Ria on the shoulder. They pulled Ria away from Annette and Mercedes. Mother. Excuse me for a second, Lady Ria, Byleth said, before stabbing her with the Creator Sword. Teach, what the fuck? Claude demanded as Ria collapsed. Marianne, Mercedes, and Linhard immediately started to try healing Ria, but that was hard, because the sword was still in her. Professor, what is the meaning of this? Dimitri yelled. Okay, can we all calm down a second? Geralt asked. They just stabbed the Archbishop. Lawrence screamed. Suthies said she wanted to talk to her, Byleth said simply. So you stabbed her? Claude demanded. Why? Suthies is the beginning. This is the sword of the Creator. So. That's not logic. That isn't even anywhere approaching logic. That's barely a connection. Claude said, somehow stunned and exasperated all at once. Should we strike the professor down for treason? Marianne asked quietly, making Geralt push Byleth behind him. Just try it, brats. Even barehanded, I can beat you all down. Facing Captain Geralt in battle. Leonie said softly. I don't think I can. And then Ria sat up. I spoke with my mother, Ria stated. She combed through my hair, just as she did in the past, and told me to tell her what had happened since we last saw each other. Ria casually pulled the sword out of her stomach, horrifying Linhard. And then she pinched both my cheeks and yelled at me for being a foolish buffoon idiotic moron. Please, you're still bleeding, stop talking. Linhard groaned. Casper patted his back as Linhard tried not to vomit. Marianne and Mercedes kept healing Ria as she talked. My mother, she told me that she would always be watching over me, and that I must do my part in improving the world that she loved so dearly. Okay, Geralt said flatly, because what the fuck was happening? That's it. From this day forward, I will be honest with the people. Ria declared. I will make you proud, mother. Yay, good job. Hilda cheered, right before the walls shook. Oh no, Claude said. Edelgard burst in, wearing her Flame Emperor garb. Since she prepared on such short notice, she didn't have time to get the Imperial army around, so she just gathered up as many of the snake jerks as she could. And the Death Knight. Retrieve every last crest stone. Edelgard ordered. What? Ria demanded. No. Don't you dare. Wait, Hilda said quickly, and Edelgard actually stopped. Who are you? Do you know these guys? Hilda asked the others. Dimitri outright shrugged. I think that might be the Flame Emperor. Casper said. I don't know. It's been a while. Couple months. How have you forgotten such a distinct masked figure? Petra asked bluntly. I mean, they do have a different helmet from last time. Dorothea noted. The Flame Emperor. Dimitri said. Hey, Dimitri. Calm down a bit, Hilda urged him. I won't let you just rush in and maybe get yourself hurt. Yes, forgive me. I'll do my best to be careful, Dimitri said sheepishly. But I won't stop until I have my answers. Excuse me. Could you possibly turn your attention towards the insolent traitors defiling my brethren's tomb? Ria demanded irritably. Oh, right, Claude said loudly. Because the hero's relics are made from bones and the crests are actual fucking blood. Why are you yelling? Ignatz asked. Sorry. I'm bad with volume control, Claude answered, trying to see if Edelgard had heard him. She didn't, because she was busy having a conversation with the Death Knight. Death Knight, make sure none of the students interfere. You don't want me to kill them. No. Just make sure they don't do anything. Don't you think I could, at least defeat them? If not the students, then the professor. No. So he went and stood near the students, ominously. Would you like some sweets? Mercedes asked the gigantic murder knight in black spiked armor with a skull mask. Yes please. Don't eat sweets with the enemy. Ria screamed, as Byleth took some and offered one to their dad. Yes, We should defend the Holy Tomb, Dmitri declared. Okay, Lysithea. Claude asked. On it. And then the Death Knight was out of commission. Byleth handed weapons to everyone who needed them, while they went to stop the blatant theft of a bunch of crest stones. Gerald helped out too, but there wasn't much for him to do except keep Rhea from going absolutely ballistic. And also maybe turning into a dragon. Dorothea backed up Leonie with magic, Linhard and Ignatz shot people down with magic and arrows, Caspar and Sylvain were fighting side by side, Lorenz and Ferdinand somehow both got on their horses in the Holy Tomb, Felix kept people from striking Ash down while Ash shot others down from afar, Ingrid and Marianne somehow also got on their horses and were striking people down, Raphael was defending Hubert, Annette and Lysithea cast magic together, and Didu and Mercedes were defending Rhea. While their classmates were utterly decimating the forces of the knife-stabby people, Claude, Hilda, and Dmitri had went straight for the Flame Emperor. Working together, no one could even hope to touch the three of them. Their path forward was ridiculously easy. This has all gone to hell, but please, let my backup plan work. Claude hoped as a swing of a weapon brought Edelgard's mask falling off. How good are you at acting, Edelgard? Claude asked her atop the back of a wyvern. Edelgard's eyes widened at the sound of a question he had asked her before. What do you mean? If you don't want the kingdom to be your enemy, you can either convince them to stand against the church or point their swords at the pains in your neck. It's obvious which one is easier, isn't it? Edelgard paused to consider his words, nodding against his back. It'd be ideal if you could strike down the church with one good attack, then get everyone to fight those snakes, but you'd have to admit your affiliation eventually, Claude said, if you were being honest. Are you suggesting lying? Is this some sort of twisted joke? Dmitri demanded furiously, glaring at Edelgard's figure. She was hunched over, her hair covering her face. Her axe was loose in her grip, and she made no obvious indications of movement. Edelgard. Answer me. Is it true that you are the Flame Emperor? And Edelgard's answer. Kill those who oppose us, destroy. Edelgard. Are you mocking us? Wait, no. Hilda exclaimed, grabbing Dmitri's wrist before he could do something crazy like throw his spear. Dmitri didn't shake away her hand. Edelgard's not acting right. Claude let out a sigh of relief. Hilda was crazy perceptive, so if she was fooled by Edelgard's act, I will bring salvation. Oh no, I think she's been brainwashed. Claude exclaimed quickly. By the knife-stabby people. They must have tried to use her as a scapegoat for their crimes by brainwashing her. Is that so? What? Edelgard. How do we save her? Dmitri wondered, terror in his eyes. Hilda paused, before looking at Claude. Claude stared back, wondering what the girl was thinking. And then she picked Claude up and threw him at Edelgard. Claude screamed. He knocked Edelgard over, his body sprawled over hers, his lips accidentally capturing hers as he tried to get up. Yes. The kiss of true love always fixes things in love stories. Hilda cheered. Does that count? Dmitri wondered as Claude basically rolled off. My mind, it's cleared. Edelgard declared loudly. Ah. Seems like it did, Dmitri said flatly. I joined their forces with the intention of betraying them, Edelgard explained to her friends afterwards. However, I became too unruly, and they placed me under a brainwashing spell. That was a very blatant lie, by the way. Well, the archbishop's already promised to make some serious reforms, Claude noted, gesturing to Rhea. She had been smiling in relief, glad that none of the crest stones were stolen. She's gonna need an emperor to keep an eye on her and make sure she keeps her word. Edelgard smiled. My friends, will you help me defeat the last faction manipulating Fodlan from the shadows? Geez, did you even have to ask? Hilda answered. We would do so gladly, Dmitri declared. You will have the church's support, Rhea promised. Byleth and Gerald smiled at the unison they displayed, feeling happy that such a cooperative conclusion could be reached. Chapter 52. Well, anyways, the knife-stabby people got beaten up really quick, because They were up against the Alliance, the Empire, the Kingdom, the Church, Almira, Brigid, and probably some other places too. It was very hard not to get your ass kicked when you had that many people to fight, javelins of light or no. No, seriously, a knitting needle was more dangerous than the knife-stabby people. Dmitri lost his eye in a tragic and unfortunate knitting accident. They managed to get the war, or, as it was more informally, yet also more accurately, referred to as, the one-sided ass-kicking, over and done with in 2.5 years. 3 if you were being generous. When they had pretty much absolutely destroyed those guys, the students went back to graduate from school and go on with their lives. The continent was shocked when Rhea declared how the Crest story was fake and everyone was freaking out over blood transplants. Many people tried to resist the changes. Those people were silenced by the diplomatic power of the Emperor Duchess Queen Edelgard and the Emperor Consort Duke King Claude in a dragon. Yes, it was completely unnecessary for one couple to be in charge of like most of Fodlan, so to make things easier on themselves and spare themselves the pain of having 3 different titles, they let one of Claude's relatives rule Almira, left the Alliance alone, and went to rule the Empire together. They had obviously not placed puppet rulers in charge of everywhere else. That would be irresponsible and rude and mean. Obviously. Ha ha ha. So the Crest system was going away, something Mercedes delighted in as she started up a bakery with her mother in the kingdom. Sylvain was also happy as he left his family, running away to become a knight with both middle fingers raised. Marianne was able to lift her head proudly. For the actual crests themselves, Linhard and Hanneman managed to find out how to remove crests and give everyone crests respectively. Lysithea and Edelgard were so happy with that. Within 2 years, crests became less of an end-all, be-all, and more just another cute way of personal expression, like hair dye and jewelry. This change was almost entirely because of Hilda, by the way. To set the scene, everyone was meeting again at Gareg Mach for the 5-year anniversary, having fun, eating good food, drinking good drinks, and catching up on what they had missed out on of each other. Lysithea and Annette were considering becoming a baker and instructor at the Officers' Academy respectively, delighting a knight-in-training Cyril, though he would never admit it. Raphael managed to pull Hubert into a drinking game, which made Hubert drunk enough to admit that he appreciated muscles, but that wasn't important. Mercedes offered an invitation to everyone to visit her bakery, something Didu promised he would at the soonest opportunity. Sylvain and Felix were stunned by how tall their cute short crushes had gotten all of a sudden. Ash didn't get it, while Casper fumed at how he was still shorter. Dorothea managed to chat Leonie up over drinks. Bernadetta and Petra were making plans for hunting season. Linhard did his best to stay awake through Ignaz's excited tales of his travels, because that happiness was important to him. Ingrid and Marianne had already made plans to ride together again, after a visit to Judith led Ingrid to reunite with Marianne once again. The tea buddies were happy to catch up over tea. Claude was laughing and telling the others of how, gasp, while he was flying to Gareg Mach with Edelgard, he spotted the most scandalous thing. Edelgard sighed as Claude dramatically told everyone that Professor Byleth had been holding hands with the gatekeeper. Gerald spat out his alcohol at Eloise and went to grab a weapon. And, away from the chatter, watching the stars, was. "Hey there," Hilda said, smiling as she approached the caped man. "Hilda," Dmitri said, turning back to face her with a slight smile. "It's good to see you again." "Same to you, Your Majesty," she said as she stepped next to him on the balcony. The twinge of disappointment that flitted through Dmitri's expression wasn't lost on Hilda. "Ahaha, I wanted to celebrate your coronation, but it's really weird to not call you Dmitri, huh?" she said softly. "But, anyways, it's been too long since we last exchanged letters." "I agree. How have you been since your last letter?" Hilda laughed, eagerly sharing a story about a trip to the market gone wary. And then the chickens escaped and flew all over the place. "It was a huge mess," Hilda exclaimed. Her eyes caught a fond smile on Dmitri's lips and quieted down a bit. She scolded herself for dragging up old memories. "Somehow, it's kinda like we're different, but sort of the same," Hilda noted. Before Dmitri could ask what she meant, she smiled, and lifted her hand to the top of her head. "I mean, you're even taller now," she exclaimed, moving her hand towards Dmitri. Look. I don't even reach your shoulders. She trailed off, suddenly feeling self-conscious. There was a sudden moment of silence. I think that you've grown lovelier, Dmitri said. Thanks, Dmitri, Hilda said, turning her eyes back towards the stars. It really does bring back memories. We had fun chatting, trusting each other, and they never did end up breaking off their relationship, but as the war grew more intense, more important things came up. When it ended, Dmitri had to be in Faerghus as prince and then king. Hilda had returned home. If Hilda never ran into Ingrid visiting Marianne, she might have never had the courage to send Dmitri the first letter on her own. But they still didn't address whatever they had or used to have. Are you cold? Dmitri asked. I could give you my cape. Ever the gentleman, huh? Hilda replied with a grin. Let me guess, the cold is nothing compared to back home, or something. I'm impressed by your memory, Dmitri said as he wrapped his cape around her shoulders. Hey, doesn't that mean that you remember it too? Hilda asked casually. I do, Dmitri answered. I've done my best to commit every moment I spent with you to memory. Hilda's eyes widened. Her back straightened out a bit as she looked at him and said, Dmitri. Dmitri didn't reply immediately, instead turning his gaze towards the stars. The time before I came to the officers' academy feels like a dream, or some sort of hell, he said. I was trapped by my own regrets, guilt, and hatred. I had nightmares of those who died, night after night, asking why I hadn't avenged them, why I had survived, but, even though I struck down those who caused their suffering alongside everyone else, I still hear their voices. I am certain I will hear their voices until the day I die. And he gave her a smile. But I know now that they would never want me to wallow in regret forever. For them, and for the future of Fodlan, I will create a world where none will ever suffer such unjust suffering. Dmitri. I'm so happy for you, Hilda said earnestly. I'll be cheering for you no matter what, okay? Hilda. His tone made her stare up at his face. She met his gaze. Yeah. I was actually hoping for you to take this, Dmitri told her, before retrieving a ring from his pocket. The gemstone was the same color as her eyes. Dmitri. Even if I was no one of importance to you, from the moment I met you, from the moment I opened my heart to you, I had been in heaven, Dmitri declared. When your letter reminded me that we would see each other in person here, after so long. I was anxiously, eagerly awaiting the day. So much so that I couldn't think of a single thing to say in response. Hilda couldn't believe it. I did everything to relax. I sculpted a few different flowers, attempted to knit a scarf, went on a walk, but nothing could pull my mind away from thoughts of you. When I passed by this ring in the jewelry store window, I couldn't help wondering if you would accept it. You're proposing to me? Hilda asked. I am, Dmitri answered. Hilda just stared at the ring for a very, very long time. Then, she started to laugh. Dmitri's eye filled with fear, but before he could apologize and excuse himself, Hilda took something out of her own pocket. What a coincidence, Hilda said, winking as she held a silver ring between her fingers. I thought the same thing. Well, I was actually just going to throw it into the lake, Hilda confessed. I mean, I was flipping through shopping catalogs, when I noticed that one was weird. It was a catalog of creststone designs you could buy, like it was some sort of tattoo. I know my own crest by heart, but then I found yours, and I engraved a ring I had with a fusion of ours. It was so embarrassing, I almost threw it out the window. But you kept it? Dmitri asked. Yeah, Hilda admitted. I was going to talk to you, then throw the ring in the lake so you could forget about me. I could forget my feelings, you could marry someone else, it was all going to be so simple. But then you proposed to me. I see. It seems that we're both proposing to each other, then, Dmitri said, his heart filling with relief. Well, I'll accept this trade, on one condition, Hilda told him. What is it? If I want to love and support you for the rest of our lives, you can't stop me, okay? And you have to join me on all my breaks. Hilda exclaimed, belatedly realizing that those were two conditions. Dmitri gave her a smile. Very well, then. Shall we exchange them? Dmitri asked, offering his ring to her. Hilda swapped them happily. Hey, since we're a couple again, you don't mind sharing this cape with me, right? Hilda asked, opening a slight gap between the cape's ends. Not at all, Dmitri replied. She hugged him, pressing her ear to his chest as he wrapped his arms around her. Geez, all I wanted was to be lazy and aimless forever, you know? I never would have agreed to be a queen before. Hilda exclaimed. The workload would have killed me. Hilda laughed. This is all your fault, Dmitri, she said lovingly. You kept telling me that I was better than that I wouldn't disappoint anyone, and I started wanting to become the person you saw in me. Accept responsibility for making me fall in love with you, okay? Of course, Dmitri told her. As long as you are beside me. And then. Oh, thank Teach's little head gremlin. Claude. Ingrid's voice yelled. What? We've been waiting for this for so long. He's got a point, Ash admitted. Did you just refer to the goddess as a little head gremlin? Edelgard asked. Hilda burst into laughter. How long have you all been watching? Dmitri demanded. Oh, your royal majesty, won't you forget such trivial details and join us for celebratory drinks? The feast won't last forever. Claude exclaimed. And no, take as long as you want. Need. Ingrid screamed. We will all give you some privacy. Let's go. She corralled the others away. Ash told Hilda and Dmitri to not stay out too long, lest they get cold, only for Edelgard to nudge him into staying quiet. We should probably rejoin them, Dmitri said as Hilda started to calm down. At the moment, I'm so happy that I fear that I would lose track of time. Okay, as long as you keep me warm, Hilda told him, snugly wrapping one side of the cape around her. Ah, Faergus is gonna be so cold, gonna take some getting used to. Then she remembered something, and she went pale for reasons that had nothing to do with the cold. Hilda? Dmitri asked, concerned. I never told my brother about you, she said softly. How are we going to explain this to Holst? Chapter 53. They met again, after so many years, not at school, but on a battlefield. Even after 5 years, he recognized her. From the way she held her axe, her voice, her running gait. The moment he did, he came to a stop. The carnage around them didn't matter. The fighting around them didn't matter. She was standing before him, the same smile as always on her face. Fancy seeing you here, huh, Dmitri? Hilda asked, acting as casual as she did when they were just walking the halls together. Hilda. Hey, don't give me that. These things happen in war. I can't strike you down. Dmitri screamed. Your voice, it was what kept me from losing myself, all these years. His grip tightened on his lance, and Hilda's eyes widened at the sight of a hastily beaded bracelet hanging from his wrist. Is it really my fate to be facing you in this fight? Can't I persuade you to join me? Hilda was silent. For a moment, Dmitri had hope. A desperate, frantic hope that, at the very least, he could spare her. I can't betray my nation, Hilda said. I can't betray my family, my brother, Claude. She lifted her weapon. I'm sorry, Dmitri. Please, just forget that promise you made me, and give it your all. The bracelet snapped. Dmitri's eye was filled with horror as Hilda fell to the ground. He didn't mean to hit her. Without thinking, he rushed to her side and cradled her body. She was still living, just barely, though her blood was staining his armor, the ground, his hands. There was too much of it, she would die any second. Long before any healers could find her. I'm so glad. I lost properly this time, Hilda said with a teary smile. I did my best to make sure I didn't betray anyone. Her name left his mouth in a broken sob. Dmitri. I wish I could have seen the starry sky with you one last time. Hilda told him, tears running down her face. Hey, can you show me your smile instead? And Dmitri tried. He tried so hard to give her what she asked for before she. I'm sorry. I am finding it difficult to control my expressions. Is this passable? Hilda let out a weak laugh. Yeah. That's the sweet smile I wanted to see, thank you, Dmitri. And with a last, shuddering breath, she was gone. Dmitri kept holding her. The battle raged around them. Her blood was losing its warmth. The battle raged around them. I love you. For years, I have loved you, Dmitri said to her ghost. I'll make this right. And he laughed. I'll bring you the heads of those who forced you to fight. He covered her body with his cape and charged into battle, promising bloody vengeance on the enemy. Something in him had broken down and died with her. Chapter 54, Bonus, Dining Hall Lines. Hilda and Dmitri pre-get together. Hilda, This is great. Send my compliments to the chef. Dmitri. Hilda, Dmitri? Dmitri, surprise and nothing. I wasn't staring. Hilda, if you wanted to try some, you should have just asked. Say ah. Dmitri, we're eating the same meal. Dmitri, thank you for the meal, Professor. Hilda, you're enjoying this, huh? Dmitri, of course. Every moment spent with you and the professor is precious. Hilda, cute. Dmitri, surprise what? Hilda and Dmitri post get together. Hilda, so, Professor, are you trying to bribe us with food? Trying to get the juicy gossip on the two of us? Dmitri, blush please no. That would be much too embarrassing. Hilda, ahaha. Hilda, gosh, it's kind of embarrassing to have the professor watching as we eat. Dmitri, are you alright? Hilda, blush yeah, it's just, when someone else is watching, I remember, oh, we're a couple now, and stuff. Dmitri, blush oh. Hilda and Didu, a fine meal. Hilda, a good chef has to have high standards, so if Didu likes it, that means it's even tastier than I thought. Hilda, Didu, could you cook this? Didu, I might be able to. Hilda, wow, incredible. Hilda and Edelgard. Hilda, eating with a pair of cute girls, bet you feel lucky, don't you, Professor? Edelgard, I wouldn't say that I'm that cute. Edelgard, Hilda, do you like this sort of meal? Hilda, yeah, I do. Edelgard, I'll keep that in mind. Hilda, Edelgard. You're such a nice friend. Edelgard and Dmitri. Edelgard, you seem to be enjoying yourself. Dmitri, of course. How could one be unhappy with good food and good company? Edelgard, hold your utensils properly, Dmitri. Dmitri, how this brings back memories. Edelgard and Claude. Edelgard, so, we're all eating together. Claude, huh? How come you sound sad about it, princess? Edelgard, I would have preferred if it were just the two of us, so we could talk strategy. Claude, surprise you wow, poor teach. Edelgard, you like this sort of dish, right? Claude, paying special attention to me, princess? Edelgard, of course. I've been watching you since you caught my interest. Claude, surprise guh. Claude and Dmitri. Dmitri, I'm grateful for the chance to eat together. Claude, same. Let's eat and celebrate a long-lasting friendship between us. Claude, hypothetically, if one were to have snuck hot sauce into your food. Dmitri, Claude. Did you? Claude, sad. Claude and Ash. Claude, say, do you think this dish could be improved with some? Ash, no, I don't. Claude, I didn't even finish the question. Claude, say, if I were to hire you for daily feasts. Ash, would I still be able to eat with you like this? Claude, that's a good point. There's no point in eating good food if you can't share it with good friends, huh? Claude and Ingrid. Claude, wow, Ingrid, you're really enjoying it, huh? Ingrid, of course. Spending time eating meals with you and the professor, it's a splendid use of my time. Claude, I meant the food, but who am I to disagree with that sentiment? Ingrid, Claude, you've hardly eaten anything. Claude, no, I think it's just that you're too fast at cleaning your plate. Ash and Ingrid. Ingrid, it's delicious. Ash, I'm sure the chef would be happy with that. There's nothing better than seeing your cooking make someone smile. Ash, I'm grateful for the chance to eat with friends like this. Ingrid, I feel the same way. Marianne and Ingrid. Ingrid, are you enjoying your meal, Marianne? Marianne, why yes. I'm enjoying this. Marianne, thank you for this opportunity to share time with my friends. Ingrid, well, I can't speak for the professor, but my time is always yours. Marianne and Casper. Marianne, you're eating so much. Casper, impressed? You ought to put more food in your body. Marianne, I'm glad. Casper, don't be afraid to speak up, all right? We're all pals here. Casper and Sylvain, pre-white heron cup. Sylvain, oh, so you like eating, huh? Want to go out for a meal with me? Casper, huh? But the professor's already giving us food. Sylvain. Post-white heron cup. Sylvain, it's nice to share a meal with a friend, huh? Casper, yeah, it's great when you can drop your act. Felix and Ash. Felix, you're rather cheerful. Ash, I think this is my usual amount of cheerfulness. Felix, Felix, you're eating rather slowly. Ash, I suppose I am. I was having so much fun that I almost forgot about the food. Felix, blush. Ash, Felix. Are you alright? Felix, shut up. Ash. Mercedes and Didu. Mercedes, are you enjoying your meal, Didu? Didu, yes. Mercedes, wonderful. Mercedes, I wonder, could I make this sort of dish? Didu, please do not do this alone. Mercedes, you're so reliable, Didu. Thank you for worrying for your culinary student so much. Didu, it's more for the kitchen's sake. Bernadetta and Petra. Petra, I am looking ahead to the day I can have meat you have hunted yourself, Bernadetta. Bernadetta, hey, don't get your hopes too high, okay? Bernadetta, This is pretty good. Petra, when I see that you have had liking, somehow, it brings me to smile. Bernadetta, what? Really? Hubert and Raphael. Raphael, alright. Let's eat. Hubert, what an incredible appetite, to what end will you put that strength towards? Raphael, Hubert, you gotta eat more. It's not good for you to be so skinny. Hubert, attempting to put me into your debt, are you? Raphael, what? Linhard and Ignatz. Ignatz, oh, sorry, Professor, I was just lost in thought. Thinking of something I wanted to create. Linhard, I know that feeling quite well, though with research instead of creation. I get so absorbed, I forget to eat some days. Ignatz, why you shouldn't do that. Linhard, a meal together with the three of us, do you enjoy spending time with green-haired intellectuals, Professor? Ignatz, me? An intellectual? Are you sure that's right? Linhard, did I misspeak? Leonie and Dorothea. Leonie, something on my face? You've been staring. Dorothea, why, yes, it's your beauty I've been staring at. Nailed it. Leonie, me? Beautiful? Try looking in a mirror. You're way prettier than I am. Dorothea, surprise. Dorothea, wow, you, really like the food, huh? Shit, that wasn't what I meant to ask. Leonie, yeah, I never would have been able to eat this where I came from. It would be a waste not to enjoy the food. Dorothea, yeah. I can understand that well. Bonus scene. Didn't Professor Manuela say you could be a dancer after you won the White Heron Cup? Hilda asked from the training hall bench with Claude. How come you never switched classes? Edelgard and Dimitri had been cleaning up after a sparring match between them, but, at Hilda's question, Dimitri dropped his spear. Well, I failed the test, Dimitri attempted. No, you didn't, because you were qualified before you even took the test, Claude pointed out immediately. Isn't a dancer incredibly powerful on the battlefield? Edelgard asked. If you could revitalize your allies and encourage them. Well, I guess you'd have to run around on foot a lot, though, Hilda noted. Maybe if you could be a dancer on a horse. Oh, so wearing the dancer clothes? Claude asked and Hilda's eyes lit up. There's a special outfit. Hilda said excitedly, turning her eyes towards Dimitri. Dimitri gulped as she hopped off the bench and stepped towards him. Dimitri, have you tried it on yet? At all? And no, ER. Can you show me? I really want to see what the dancer outfit looks like. If it's just showing you the clothes, then, I suppose. No, that won't do at all, Claude declared. You have to wear it for us to get a sense of what a real dancer is like. Show us the pride of the competitor that defeated us both at the White Heron Cup. Edelgard ordered. When did you invite yourselves into this? Dimitri demanded. Were you planning on changing your clothes and only showing Hilda? Edelgard asked pointedly. Well, it's not right to force you when you're uncomfortable. Hilda said. So, don't worry about it if you don't want to, Dimitri. But, if you're feeling shy, can't you play dress up for each other? Claude asked. What? Hilda replied. If Dimitri's not the only one showing off, it isn't as embarrassing. So, if we get Hilda in a costume too, then where would we get something like that? Edelgard asked as Byleth passed by. Everyone paused. I'm not even going to question why Teach had made outfits on them, Claude said as they were waiting for Dimitri and Hilda to emerge from the changing rooms. The pair emerged around the same time, and, well. Wow, Dimitri. Hilda said. You look great. Dimitri was completely incapable of saying anything in return, because how was he supposed to react to Hilda in a maid outfit? Or, should I say Your Highness? Hilda asked. I mean, since I'm wearing this, I might as well pay my respects. What do you think, Dimitri? She winked at Dimitri, and he hit his mental, emotional, and physical limits. Dimitri! The others screamed in unison. Dimitri. Chapter 55, Bonus, Epilogue. Byleth, Ashen Angel. Byleth retreated from history's pages after the war for reasons that are unknown to history. They have appeared only in personal accounts by their friends. From all accounts, they remained a good friend and mentor figure to those who knew them, even as they settled down into a calm and peaceful life. The name of their husband has never been recovered from any writings. Geralt, the Blade Breaker. Having lived to see the war's conclusion, Geralt went back to his work as a mercenary. His days of fighting came to an end, however, when Byleth came home bearing news of children. Terrified by the thought of dying before seeing his grandchildren grow up, Geralt hung up his weapon and became a full-time teacher at the Officers' Academy. He was noted to be more comfortable with the Archbishop, possibly from their ambiguous family ties. Rhea, the Immaculate One. Rhea devoted herself to reforming the Church, guiding it towards a new dawn of peace and unity alongside the rulers of Fodlan. She was noted to frequently visit the Eisner household, doting on Byleth and their husbands' children much like a sister would. Or, a mother? Or a grandmother? Ferdinand, noblest of nobles, and Laurence, noble of the Red Rose. The two noblemen continued their friendship well into the years, until an illness spread through the von Aegir territory. Ferdinand worked tirelessly to protect the commoners from the epidemic, Laurence supporting him every step of the way, but the von Aegir family was left penniless by the time the disease was contained. Laurence proposed marriage to Ferdinand, unifying their families and their funds. Their marriage elevated the art of tea to new heights. Petra, Queen of Brigid, and Bernadetta, ambitious author. After the war ended, Bernadetta cut off all ties with her father and set off into the world, traveling along with friends before settling down in Brigid. She reunited with Petra, helping the Queen with many written documents that were to be exchanged with Fodlan's officials. The two rekindled their friendship from school until it grew into love. They married, furthering the bond between Bridget and Fodlan, though their official work often cut down on Bernadetta's writing time. Caspar, hot-headed general, and Sylvain, sincerest of knights. True to his word, Sylvain straightened himself out after Dimitri and Hilda's marriage, moving out of his ancestral home to live closer to his guard position by the kingdom's border. He met Caspar there, the latter having become a general under the Empire. Perhaps by fate, Caspar was also defending the Empire border. The two frequently met up after their shifts, until it became more common for Caspar to be found in Sylvain's home than his own abode. Ingrid, stalwart knight, and Marianne, smiling survivor. Ingrid became a knight for the kingdom, while Marianne became one of the Alliance's most skilled orators. During a visit to Faergus, Ingrid was assigned to protect Marianne. Things went drastically wrong, the tale of their misadventures and escapades being captured in a book written by Bridget's queen consort. The veracity of this novel stands to be questioned, but marriage records show that Ingrid and Marianne truly were married, and remained so for the rest of their lives. Flaine, slumbering princess, Seath, ally of the archbishop, and Manuela, divine songstress. With Rhea's reforms being enacted across all of Fodlan, Seath quickly became swamped with work. In his times of stress, Manuela came to him with a drink and a smile, even caring for Flaine in times Seath couldn't. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Manuela and Seath married. It is said that the three were a happy family for many long years. Mercedes, benevolent soul, and Didu, taciturn devotee. Mercedes started up a bakery with her mother and brother in the kingdom, serving many people. One of her most frequent customers, however, was the king's aide, Didu. He frequently visited her, to the point that Mercedes had hot cocoa and sweets ready for him. After many years of friendship, Didu proposed over tea. Mercedes left her bakery to her family, going with Didu on his missions for the king, bringing her gentle kindness and generosity to people all over the continent. Linhard, sleepy crest scholar, and Ignatz, worldly artist. After discovering the secret to removing crests, Linhard attempted to retreat into a very deep hibernation. Fortunately, fate would instead bring him to cross paths with Ignatz, who was visiting the Empire to learn more of the sights outside his humble home. Intrigued, Linhard joined Ignatz on his journey, finding many research subjects along the way. Ignatz became a renowned artist, whose most famous work, The Studious Saint, depicted a partner, friend, and lover, peacefully resting amidst a pile of books. Hubert, Emperor's aide, and Raphael, Beast of Leicester. Raphael returned to his hometown, finding that his sister and grandfather had started up an inn in his absence. With relations and trade between the Alliance and the Empire flourishing due to Claude and Edelgard's marriage, many imperial faces came to their inn, most notably of all, Edelgard's close aide, Hubert. Their relationship has been documented in writings by Bridget's queen consort, though the manuscript is all that remains of whatever attack burnt the finished product to ashes. Cyril, limitless potential, Annette, bloomed overachiever, and Lysithea, scholar of sweets. Cured of her crests, Lysithea sought to become a commoner, only to run into Annette by chance a few months before the promised meeting at Garreg Mach. The two discussed how much they had grown, only to realize that their knowledge could be passed on to the next generation. Learning of their plans at the promised meeting, Cyril passionately argued for the pair to be hired. The three of them remained close as co-workers and friends, though historians could never agree what their relationship was exactly. Ash, arrow of justice, and Felix, sword and shield. The two men were knighted under Dimitri's service, often working together in their duties. After years of partnership and friendship, Felix challenged Ash to a duel. At that duel's conclusion, Felix threw a ring at Ash's feet, angrily spat out a few words of love and plans for a future together, and ran off. Ash accepted. The two of them had given rise to a tradition in Faergus. Proposals would be done via sparring matches, with the loser giving up their family name. Leonie, eager learner, and Dorothea, mystical songstress. Leonie eagerly threw herself into mercenary work under Geralt, but, when he retired, Leonie found herself out of ideas for what to do with her future. She wandered all over Fodlan, before finding her way to the Middle Frank Opera Company. There, she found herself entranced by a certain performer's singing. Leonie became a dancer alongside Dorothea, taking to the work rather quickly. Dorothea never missed the chance to dance together with her lover, the two of them becoming known as the patron saints of rhythm and song. Edelgard, Flame Emperor, and Claude, King of Unification. Together, Claude and Edelgard broke down the walls between the three nations under their rule, before setting their sights on the world at large. The two remained friends with their former classmates and companions, often relying on them to help with their goals. With his wit and her strength combined, it wasn't long until the day that they flew together on a wyvern, looking down at the incredible world that they had created alongside everyone else. Dimitri, Savior King, and Hilda, Delicate Flower. Dimitri and Hilda married, working together with the other rulers of Fodlan to bring an end to injustice in the realm. Along the way, they had inspired several traditions to do with love in their lifetimes, from cloak sharing to merging crests to an annual chocolate sharing festival devoted to loved ones. The most famous depiction of them, however, is a painting hanging in the first of many artisan academies they had founded, depicting the queen dragging the king into a relaxing break. Check the description for the links to the author.